Furthermore, we move for immediate dismissal based on insufficient evidence and request that all defendants be released on their own recognizance, given their deep ties to the community and lack of criminal history. Insufficient evidence? Judge Chen's eyebrow arched. Counsel, I've reviewed the probable cause affidavit. The government has video recordings of your clients discussing the fraud scheme. They have bank records showing the flow of funds. They have witness testimony and documentary evidence. What exactly is insufficient? Brennan didn't miss a beat. The so-called video evidence was obtained through illegal wiretapping. The Ring doorbell footage was recorded without the consent of all parties, violating Colorado's wiretapping statutes. Therefore, it's inadmissible, and the entire case falls apart. Laura shot to her feet. Your Honor, I'm Laura Kim, representing the victims in related civil matters. May I address the court? Judge Chen nodded. Proceed, Miss Kim. Colorado is a two-party consent state for private conversations. However, the Ring doorbell was installed at the entrance to a private residence, recording activity in a semi-public space, a front porch visible from the street. More importantly, it was installed by Sarah Whitmore, who lived at that residence. She had every legal right to install security equipment at her own home. It wasn't her home, Brennan shot back. The property title is solely in David Whitmore's name. She had no authority to install recording devices without his knowledge or consent. Actually, Laura smiled coldly, Colorado is a community property state. Property acquired during marriage belongs to both spouses regardless of whose name is on the title. Sarah had equal legal standing to make decisions about security equipment for the marital home. Judge Chen made a note. The motion to suppress the video evidence is denied pending a full evidentiary hearing. Anything else, Mr. Brennan? Yes, Your Honor. We request immediate release on bail. Mr. David Whitmore is a respected attorney with no criminal history. Judge Robert Whitmore served this community with distinction for 30 years. Mrs. Patricia Whitmore chairs multiple charitable organizations. Dr. Edmund Whitmore is a licensed medical professional. None of them pose a flight risk or danger to the community. The Assistant U.S. Attorney, Daniel Chen, stood. Your Honor, David Whitmore had a one-way ticket to Switzerland booked for next week. He transferred over $200,000 to Cayman Island accounts in the past month. He threatened to have his wife involuntarily committed when she attempted to leave. These are not upstanding citizens. These are calculated criminals who used their positions of power to prey on vulnerable people for decades. Furthermore, Daniel continued, we've identified 17 additional potential victims who've come forward in the past 24 hours. The scope of this fraud operation is far larger than initially believed. If released, the defendants would absolutely attempt to intimidate witnesses, destroy evidence, and flee the jurisdiction. Judge Chen looked at the Whitmores. Mr. Brennan, your clients have significant financial resources, international connections, and demonstrated willingness to manipulate legal systems. The government's concerns about flight risk are well-founded. Your Honor, Brennan tried to interrupt. I'm not finished, counsel. Judge Chen's voice was ice. Moreover, I've reviewed some disturbing allegations about Judge Whitmore's conduct on the bench. Allegations that, if proven, suggest a pattern of corruption spanning decades. This court takes judicial misconduct extremely seriously. Robert's face went white. Brennan whispered urgently to him. Bail is set at $5 million each for David and Robert Whitmore, $2 million each for Patricia and Edmund Whitmore, cash or bond, electronic monitoring required, surrender of all passports. No contact with victims or witnesses. Judge Chen's gavel came down. Next case.
Remember the look on
The courtroom
her face
erupted.
When she told me what happened.
Patricia's sobs grew louder.
The abandonment,
David
the
was yelling at
abuse.
his attorney. Robert sat in stunned silence, finally understanding that his connections, his reputation, his 30 years of power, none of it was going to save him. As they were let out, David turned and looked directly at Sarah. His mouth moved, forming words I couldn't hear over the chaos. But Sarah could read lips, and whatever he said made her face go pale. What did he say? I demanded as soon as we were in the hallway. He said, "You're dead. You and your mother. You're both dead." Sarah's voice shook. He threatened us. In federal court. In front of judges and marshals. He threatened to kill us. Detective Moreno was already on her radio. I need that threat documented. Get the courtroom recording. David Whitmore just threatened witnesses in open court. Laura pulled out her
abandonment,
phone,
the
typing
abuse.
furiously. That's witness
I still remember
intimidation.
the look on her
That's
face
another
when she
federal
told me what
charge.
happened.
That idiot just added years to his
abandonment,
potential
the
sentence.
abuse.
We were hustled out of the courthouse through the
I
back
still remember
entrance,
the look on
but
her
not
face
before
when
I
she
heard
told me
Patricia
what
shrieking
happened.
at reporters. That
The
woman seduced my
abandonment, the
son and destroyed our
abuse.
family. She's a gold digger
I
who
still
convinced her
remember the
mother
look
to
on
make
her
false
face when she told me
accusations.
what happened.
We're the victims here.
The
In the car,
abandonment, the
Sarah was
abuse.
shaking. He's going to kill
I
me.
still remember the look on
Even
her
if he's
face
in
when she
jail,
told me
he'll
what
find a
happened.
way. He has
The
connections,
abandonment, the
money hidden
abuse.
everywhere. He'll
I
stop.
still remember the
I
look
gripped
on
her
her
shoulders,
face when she
forcing her
told
to
me
look
what
at me.
happened.
He has nothing.
The
His accounts are
abandonment, the
frozen.
abuse.
His connections are abandoning him.
I still remember the
Every
look on her
person he
face
ever
when she
helped
told
with
me
his
what
corruption
happened.
is running as fast
The
as they can in the
abandonment,
opposite direction.
abuse.
He's not going to
I
hurt
still
you.
remember the look
You
on
don't
her
know
face
that.
when she told
I
me
do
what
know
happened.
that. Because I'm not leaving
The
your side.
abandonment, the abuse.
Detective Moreno isn't leaving your side.
I still remember
The
the look
FBI
on her
has you
face
listed
when
as
she
a
told me
protected
what
witness.
happened.
David Whitmore is
The
going to spend the rest of his
abandonment,
life in a
the
cage,
abuse.
and you're going to spend the rest of yours
I
free.
still remember the
My
look on
phone
her
buzzed.
face when she told
A
me what
text from an
happened.
unknown number.
The
Your daughter
abandonment,
is a
the
lying whore who
abuse.
destroyed a good family. I hope
still
you
remember
both
the
die
look on her
screaming.
face when she
Then
told me
another.
what happened.
Gold-digging
The
cunts.
abandonment, the
The Whitmores are
abuse.
respected people and you're trash.
I still
Then
remember
another,
the look on her face
and
when
another.
she told me what happened.
A flood of threatening, vicious
the abandonment,
messages.
the abuse.
Laura saw my face. Block the number.
I still
Don't
remember the
respond.
look on her
These
face
are
when she
Whitmore
told me what
loyalists trying to
happened.
intimidate you. Every message is being
abandonment, the
forwarded to law
abuse.
enforcement. But they kept coming.
I still remember
Different
the
numbers.
look on her face when
Same
she told me
vitriol.
what happened.
Threats of violence.
The
Rape
abandonment,
threats.
the abuse.
Death threats. Graphic descriptions
I
of what
still
they'd like to
remember the
do to
look on her
Sarah and
face
me.
when she told me
They
what
have people
happened.
doing this, Sarah said
The
flatly.
abandonment, the abuse.
David has friends, fraternity
I
brothers,
still remember the look
business
on her face when
associates,
she told me
people
what
who
happened.
owe him favors.
The
This is
abandonment,
coordinated.
the abuse.
Detective Moreno made a call.
I still remember
I'm getting
the
you a
look on her
security
face when
detail,
she told
both
me
of
what
you,
happened.
round the clock until
The
trial.
abandonment,
That could
the
be months,
abuse.
I protested. Then
I
you'll have
still remember
security
the
for
look on her
months.
face when she told me
Margaret,
what
Sarah,
happened.
these people are dangerous.
The abandonment,
They're backed into
the
a corner and they're
abuse.
lashing out. We take every threat
I still
seriously.
remember the look on her
Back at the
face when she
hotel, we
told me
found the
what
lobby
happened.
swarming with reporters.
The
Someone had leaked our
abandonment, the
location.
abuse.
Cameras flashed as we tried to get to the
I
elevators.
still remember the look
Questions
on her face
flew
when
from
she
every
told me what
direction.
happened.
Sarah, how do you respond to
abandonment,
allegations
the
you made everything up?
abuse.
Margaret, did you know your daughter
still
was lying
remember the
about
look
the
on her
abuse?
face when she
Is it
told me
true
what
you're trying to
happened.
extort millions from the Whitmore
abandonment,
family?
the abuse.
Hotel security pushed them back,
I
but not
still
before
remember the
one
look on her
reporter
face
shoved a
when she told
microphone
me
in
what
Sarah's
happened.
face. Jessica
The
Winters says you're a
abandonment, the
vindictive ex who
abuse.
can't accept that your husband
I
moved
still
on.
remember the look on
What's
her
your
face when
response?
she told me what happened.
Sarah stopped,
The abandonment,
turned,
the abuse.
looked directly into the camera. My response is
remember
that
the look
Jessica
on her
Winters
face
is
when she
pregnant
told
with a
me what
baby
happened.
conceived with money stolen from my
abandonment,
mother.
the abuse.
My response is that David Whitmore is currently
I
in
still
federal
remember the
custody
look on her
facing 30
face when
years
she
in
told me
prison.
what happened.
My response is that the truth doesn't care about
abandonment, the
Jessica Winters'
abuse.
opinions. She walked
I
away,
still remember
leaving
the
the
look on her
reporter
face when she
speechless.
told me what
If this
happened.
moment truly hit home
The
for you,
abandonment,
don't
the
forget to tap that
abuse.
like button. It tells me you're right here
I
with
still
me.
remember the look
Can
on
you
her
see a bit
face
of
when she
yourself in
told
this
me what
story?
happened.
Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear
abandonment,
what
the
part spoke to you
abuse.
most. In the elevator,
I still
Sarah
remember
finally
the look
broke
on her
down.
face when she
I
told me
can't
what
do this.
happened.
I can't live like
The
this.
abandonment,
Constant
the
threats,
abuse.
cameras everywhere, people
I
calling me
still
a
remember
liar.
the look on her face
Mom,
when she
I just
told me
want it
what
to stop.
happened.
It will stop,
The
I promised.
abandonment, the
Once they're
abuse.
convicted, once everyone sees the full
I still
evidence,
remember the
it
look
will
on
stop.
her face when she
But I
told me
wasn't
what
sure I
happened.
believed it. Because even if the Whitmores went to
abandonment, the
prison,
abuse.
their legacy of cruelty would linger.
I still
The
remember
people
the
they'd
look on her face
manipulated,
when she
the
told me what
loyalists who'd
happened.
benefited from their corruption,
The
those
abandonment,
people would
the
still be out there,
abuse.
angry and vindictive.
I still
That
remember
night,
the look on her
I hired
face
a
when she
private
told me what
security
happened.
firm. 2 guards
The
stationed
abandonment,
outside our
the
hotel
abuse.
suite. Panic buttons installed.
I still remember
A plan
the
to
look on
move
her
to a
face
different
when she told me
location
what
every few
happened.
days to prevent patterns.
The abandonment,
Sarah sat
the
on the bed,
abuse.
holding her phone, reading through the
I still
messages of
remember the
support
look on
mixed
her
with the
face
death
when she
threats.
told me what
There are
happened.
more good messages than bad,
The
she said quietly.
abandonment, the abuse.
More people believe us than don't. Then we
I still
focus on
remember
them,
the
I
look on
said.
her face
We
when she
focus
told
on
me
the
what
survivors
happened.
you're helping. We focus on winning the
abandonment, the
case. Everything else
abuse.
is noise. But that
I
noise
still
was getting
remember the
louder,
look on her face
and I
when she
couldn't
told
shake
me
the
what
feeling that
happened.
the worst was yet to come.
The abandonment,
Laura called
the
an emergency
abuse.
meeting for December 28th at 8
I
a.m.
still remember the The look
Come to
on
my
her
office,
face when she told
not
me
the
what
conference
happened.
room, my private office,
The abandonment,
and tell
the
absolutely no one you're
abuse.
coming. The secrecy made my stomach churn. Sarah and I arrived through the building's underground parking garage, escorted by our new security detail, two former Marines named Rodriguez and Kim, who looked like they could bench press a truck. Laura's private office was smaller than I expected, lined with law books and framed degrees. But it was the man sitting in the corner who caught my attention. Mid-40s, nondescript in jeans and a black jacket, with eyes that cataloged everything. "This is Thomas Garrett," Laura said, "private investigator, the best financial forensic specialist west of the Mississippi. I hired him to trace where your money actually went, Margaret." "Tom, tell them what you found." Garrett opened a laptop, turning it so we could see the screen. "I've been tracking David Whitmore's financial activity for 72 hours. What I found is extensive." He pulled up a spreadsheet. "The $247,000 the FBI traced? That's just the beginning. David has been running a sophisticated money laundering operation for at least 5 years, possibly longer." "5 years?" I said. "But he only married Sarah 3 years ago." "Exactly, which means Sarah wasn't his first victim. She was just the most recent." Garrett clicked to another screen showing a series of photographs. "Meet Catherine Brennan, David's first wife." The woman in the photo was maybe 30, blonde, beautiful, with sad eyes that looked hauntingly familiar. Like she knew something terrible was coming. "David was married before?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "For 2 years. 2020 to 2022. They met online, dated for 6 months, married quickly. Sound familiar?" Garrett pulled up more documents. Catherine came from money. Her father owned a chain of car dealerships in California. Within a year of marriage, David had convinced her to invest in various opportunities. Real estate in Florida that didn't exist, a tech startup that was just a shell company, cryptocurrency ventures that evaporated overnight. My hands went numb. How much did he take? From Catherine directly? About $400,000. From her father, who David also cultivated a relationship with. Another $600,000. Total of $1 million. Garrett's expression was grim. Catherine tried to divorce him when she discovered the fraud. David threatened her with the same playbook, claimed she was mentally unstable, got his uncle Edmund to write a psychiatric evaluation declaring her a danger to herself and others, tried to have her institutionalized. "What happened to her?" Sarah asked. Garrett was quiet for a moment. "She died. June 15th, 2022. Official cause of death. Suicide by overdose. She left a note saying she couldn't live with the shame of what her husband had done to her family." The room went cold. Sarah's face was sheet white. "But you don't think it was suicide?" Laura said flatly. The medical examiner's report raised questions. The drug levels in her system were high enough to kill someone twice her size. The note was typed, not handwritten. Her parents insisted she wasn't suicidal, that she was planning to leave David and start over. But David had connections. The investigation was closed quickly, ruled a suicide. He collected her life insurance, $500,000, and walked away clean. I couldn't breathe. He killed her. He murdered his first wife. "I can't prove that," Garrett said carefully. "But the circumstances are suspicious enough that I've forwarded everything to the FBI. They're reopening the investigation." He looked at Sarah. "You're not his first victim, you're his second, and you're lucky you survived." Sarah stood abruptly, walked to the window, pressed her forehead against the glass. Her shoulders were shaking. "I could have died. If Mom hadn't come that night, if I'd stayed out there any longer, I would have frozen to death and he would have called it an accident or suicide or..." Her voice broke completely. "I went to her, wrapped my arms around her from behind. But you didn't die. You're here. You're safe." "Catherine's parents need to know," Sarah said, her voice muffled against the glass. "They need to know their daughter didn't kill herself, that she was murdered by that monster." "They will know," Garrett said. "I've already contacted them. They're flying to Denver next week to meet with the FBI. They want to testify at David's trial." Laura pulled up another document on her own laptop. "There's more. Tom found evidence that Robert Whitmore has been running similar schemes through his courtroom for 30 years. Not just bribery, actual organized fraud. He'd identify wealthy divorcees during custody cases, pass their information to David, who'd romance them, marry them, drain their accounts, then discard them.
I still
How many?
remember the look on her
I
face
asked.
when she told me
We've
what
identified 7 women so far.
The abandonment,
Sarah
the
and Catherine are the
abuse.
only 2 David actually married.
I still remember
The others
the
were
look on her
girlfriends,
face when she told me what
fiancés,
happened.
relationships that lasted just long enough to extract significant money. Garrett pulled
I
up
still remember
photos.
the look on her face
Meet
when
Jennifer
she told
Walsh
me what
lost
happened.
$300,000
The abandonment,
to investments.
the abuse.
David recommended.
I
Melissa
still remember
Torres
the look on her face when
$250,000
she
for a
told me what
restaurant
happened.
franchise that never
The
materialized.
abandonment, the
Amanda Price
abuse.
$400,000 for medical treatments for
I
her
still
sick mother
remember the
that were
look on her
completely
face when she
fabricated.
told me what happened.
7 women, 7
The
victims.
abandonment, the
And those were
abuse.
just the ones Garrett had found in
I
72
still
hours.
remember the look on her
They're
face
serial
when she told
predators,
me
Sarah
what
said.
happened.
The whole family.
The
They've been doing this for
abandonment, the
decades.
abuse.
Which is why, Laura
I
said,
still remember
we're
the look
expanding
on
the
her
civil
face when
case.
she told me
We're
what
filing a
happened.
class action lawsuit on behalf
The
of all known
abandonment,
victims.
the abuse.
We're going after not just the money they
I
stole,
still remember
but
the look on
punitive
her face
damages.
when she told
We're
me
going
what
to
happened.
dismantle their entire financial
The
empire.
abandonment, the
What about the
abuse.
criminal case? I asked.
I
Does
still
this help?
remember the look on her face when
Enormously,
she told me
Laura
what
said.
happened.
It establishes pattern and
abandonment,
practice.
the abuse.
Shows David's behavior with Sarah wasn't an
still remember
isolated
the look on her
incident,
face
but
when she
part of a
told me what
long-term
happened.
criminal enterprise.
The
And if we can
abandonment,
prove he
the
murdered
abuse.
Catherine, or even just that he drove her to
I
suicide through
still
abuse,
remember the
that's
look
life
on
in
her
prison
face
without
when she told
parole.
me what happened.
Sarah turned from the window.
The
I want to
abandonment,
meet them,
the abuse.
the other victims. I want them to
I
know
still
they're not
remember the
alone.
look on her face when
That can
she
be
told me what
arranged,
happened.
Garrett said. In fact,
The
most of them are
abandonment, the
eager to meet you.
abuse.
Your press conference gave them
I
courage to
still
come
remember the
forward.
look on her face
You're
when
their
she
hero,
told me what
Sarah.
happened.
I'm not a hero.
The
I'm just.
abandonment, the abuse.
Sarah struggled for words. I'm just someone
I
who
still
got
remember
lucky,
the look on her
who had a
face when
mother
she
who
told me
believed
what
me,
happened.
who had resources to fight
The
back.
abandonment, the
What about all the women who
abuse.
don't? What about the
I
ones
still
still
remember the
trapped?
look on her face when
Laura's
she told
phone
me what
buzzed.
happened.
She glanced at it and her
The
face went pale.
abandonment, the abuse.
Turn on the TV. Channel 4.
I still
Now,
remember the look
I
on her
grabbed the
face when
remote.
she told me what
The local
happened.
news was showing a live press
The
conference.
abandonment, the
Marcus
abuse.
Brennan, the Whitmore's attorney, stood at a
I
podium
still
looking
remember the
grave.
look on her face
We're here
when she
today
told
to
me
address
what
serious
happened.
allegations that have been made
The
against the Whitmore
abandonment,
family.
the abuse.
Allegations that are not only false
I
but
still remember
constitute
the look on her
defamation
face
and
when she
malicious
told me what
prosecution.
happened.
Brennan's voice was
The
smooth,
abandonment, the
confident.
abuse.
My clients are victims of an
still
elaborate
remember
con
the look on her
orchestrated by
face when
Margaret
she told
Chen
me
and
what
her daughter
happened.
Sarah, designed
The
to extort
abandonment,
millions
the
of dollars through
abuse.
false accusations. Son
I
of a
still remember
bitch,
the look on her
Laura
face
muttered.
when she told me what
We have
happened.
evidence, Brennan continued,
The
that
abandonment,
Sarah Chen
the
Whitmore has a
abuse.
documented history of making false
I
allegations.
still remember the look
In
on her
college,
face when she
she
told me
accused
what
a professor of inappropriate conduct,
abandonment,
an
the
allegation that was
abuse.
investigated and determined to be
happened. I
baseless.
still remember the look on
She
her
accused a
face when she
coworker
told
at
me
her
what
teaching
happened.
job of harassment again,
The abandonment,
investigated
the
and dismissed.
abuse.
This is a pattern of behavior
still
by
remember
someone
the
who
look on her
weaponizes
face when
false
she told me what
accusations for
happened.
attention and financial gain.
The abandonment,
Sarah's
the
face went gray.
abuse.
That's not those weren't.
I still
Shh,
remember
I
the
said,
look on her face
let him
when
talk,
she told me
let
what
him lie.
happened.
Every word is more
The
evidence of their
abandonment,
desperation.
the abuse.
Furthermore, Brennan said, pulling
I
out
still remember the
documents,
look on her
we have
face when
proof
she
that
told me
Margaret
what
Chen has
happened.
financial problems of her
The
own.
abandonment,
Her marketing
the
firm is under
abuse.
investigation for accounting
I
irregularities.
still remember the look
She's
on her
personally
face
in
when she
debt to
told
the
me
tune
what
of $2
happened.
million.
The
This entire
abandonment,
case
the
is a scheme to
abuse.
steal money from the Whitmore family to
I
solve her
still
own
remember the
financial
look on her
crisis.
face when she told
That's
me what
completely
happened.
false, I exploded.
The abandonment,
My firm
the
isn't under
abuse.
investigation. I'm not in debt.
I
This
still
is
remember the look on her
libel,
face when
Laura
she told
finished.
me what happened.
Actionable, provable libel.
The abandonment, the
Tom, can you
abuse.
verify Margaret's financial status?
I still
Already
remember the
on
look
it.
on her face
Garrett
when
was
she told
typing
me what
furiously.
happened.
Chen and Associates' last audit was
the
clean.
abuse.
Margaret's personal finances are
I
solid.
still remember the
She
look
has
on
a
her
net
face
worth
when
of
she told me
approximately
what happened.
$3.2 million.
The
She's not in
abandonment,
debt.
the
This is
abuse.
completely fabricated.
I
On
still
screen,
remember the
Brennan
look
was
on
still
her face
talking.
when she told me
We
what
call on the
happened.
district attorney to investigate
The
Margaret and
abandonment,
Sarah
the
Chen for fraud,
abuse.
extortion, and filing false
I
police
still
reports.
remember the look on her
We call
face
on the
when she told
FBI
me
to
what
close this
happened.
witch hunt against
The
respected members of the
abandonment,
Denver
the
community.
abuse.
And we're filing a $50 million
I still remember the
defamation
look on her
lawsuit
face
against
when she
both
told me
women
what
for the
happened.
irreparable harm they've caused to
The
the Whitmore
abandonment,
family's
the
reputation.
abuse.
The press conference ended.
I
The
still
news
remember
anchor
the look
appeared,
on her
looking
face when she
skeptical.
told me what
Those are
happened.
serious allegations from the
The
Whitmore defense
abandonment,
team.
the abuse.
However, we should note that the FBI has
I still
presented
remember the
significant
look on her
evidence to
face when
support
she
the
told me
charges
what
against the
happened.
Whitmores, including video and
abandonment, the
audio
abuse.
recordings that appear to contradict many of Mr.
I still
Brennan's
remember the
claims.
look on her face when
Laura
she
was
told me
already
what happened.
dialing. I'm calling
The
Channel 4.
abandonment, the
I'm calling every
abuse.
media outlet. We're
I
holding
still
a
remember
rebuttal
the
press
look on her
conference in
face when
2
she told
hours.
me what happened.
They want to play dirty?
The
We'll bury
abandonment,
them in
the
truth.
abuse.
Laura, Sarah said quietly,
I still remember
the things
the
he
look on
said
her
about
face
me,
when she
the
told me what
professor,
happened.
the co-worker, Those
The
things
abandonment,
happened, but
the
not the way he's
abuse.
describing them. Everyone stopped and
still
looked at
remember
her.
the look on her
In
face when
college,
she
a
told me
professor
what
did make
happened.
advances. I reported
The
it.
abandonment,
The
the
university
abuse.
investigated and said there wasn't enough evidence,
I
but they
still remember
suggested
the
I
look
drop
on her
his
face
class,
when she told
which
me
I
what
did.
happened.
And the coworker, he wasn't
The
harassment,
abandonment, the
it was assault.
abuse.
He cornered me in a storage room and
still
put his
remember
hands
the
on
look on
me.
her face when
I
she
filed a
told me what
report.
happened.
HR said it was he said, she said,
abandonment,
and I
the
couldn't prove it.
abuse.
I quit teaching after that.
I still
Her
remember
voice
the
was
look on her
steady, but her
face when
hands
she told
shook.
me what happened.
So yes, I made allegations before, and yes, they
abandonment,
weren't
the
officially
abuse.
proven, but they were true.
I still
All of them
remember
were
the
true.
look on her face
Then
when she
that's
told
what
me
we'll
what
say,
happened.
Laura said firmly.
The
We'll get the
abandonment, the
actual
abuse.
reports. Show that you did everything right,
still remember
but the
the look on
system
her
failed
face
you,
when she told
just
me what
like it's been
happened.
failing women for decades.
The abandonment,
Garrett
the
was still
abuse.
typing. I'm running background on the
I still
professor and the
remember the look on her
coworker.
face when
Give
she
me
told
names,
what
Sarah.
happened.
She did.
The abandonment,
Within
the
20 minutes,
abuse.
Garrett had found information that made my
still
blood
remember the
boil
look
all
on her
over
face
again.
when she told me what
Professor
happened.
Marcus Thorne, currently
The
under
abandonment,
investigation
the
by 3 different
abuse.
universities for sexual misconduct.
still remember
8
the look
women
on her
have filed
face when she
Title
told me
IX
what
complaints.
happened.
He's been moved
The
from school to
abandonment,
school
the
for 15
abuse.
years, always one step ahead of
I
consequences.
still remember the look on her
Garrett
face
pulled
when
up
she told
another
me
file.
What happened.
The coworker,
The abandonment,
Stephen Walsh,
the abuse.
arrested 6 months ago in Aurora for
I still
sexual
remember the
assault,
look on her face
currently
when she
awaiting
told me what
trial.
happened.
There are 4 other women with similar
abandonment, the
complaints about him during
abuse.
his time at Sarah's school.
I still
So
remember
Sarah
the look
was
on her
right,
face
Laura
when she
said,
told me what happened.
about all of it. But she
The
was told she was wrong,
abandonment, the
told she was
abuse.
making things up, a pattern of
still remember the
institutions
look on her
failing to
face when
protect
she
her
told
or
me what
believe her.
happened.
Until now, I
The
said,
abandonment,
now
the
we have proof,
abuse.
now we have power, and now we
I
fight
still
back.
remember the look on her
Laura
face
scheduled
when
the
she told
rebuttal
me what
press
happened.
conference. Garrett
The
continued his
abandonment,
investigation,
the abuse.
and Sarah sat quietly,
I still
processing
remember
the
look on her
revelation that
face
she
when
hadn't
told
been
me what
David's first
happened.
victim. That
The
Catherine Brennan had
abandonment,
died,
the
possibly
abuse.
been murdered by the same man who'd tried to
still
destroy
remember the look
Sarah.
on her face when
I
she
have to
told me what
testify,
happened.
Sarah said suddenly.
The abandonment,
About everything.
the abuse.
Catherine, the money, the abuse,
I still
all of
remember
it.
the look on her face
I have
when
to
she
make
told
sure
me
he
what
never
happened.
does this to anyone else.
The
Are you
abandonment,
sure?
the
I
abuse.
asked. Sarah,
I
testifying
still
means
remember the look
reliving
on her
everything,
face when she told
every
me what
trauma,
happened.
every humiliation.
The abandonment,
Defense
the
attorneys will tear you
abuse.
apart. Let them try,
I still remember
Sarah
the look on
said,
her face
and her
when she
voice
told
was
me what
pure
happened.
steel. I survived
The
David
abandonment,
Whitmore.
the
I
abuse.
survived his family. I can
I still
survive
remember
anything.
the look on her
And
face
looking
when
at my
she told me
daughter,
what
my
happened.
strong, brave, unbreakable
The
daughter,
abandonment,
I
the
believed her.
abuse.
The federal trial began on January
still remember the
15th,
look on her
18
face when
days
she
after
told me
that
what
frozen
happened.
Christmas Eve that had changed
The
everything.
abandonment, the
The courthouse was
abuse.
surrounded by news vans, protesters
remember
holding
the look
signs
on her
both
face when
supporting
she
and
told me
condemning
what
Sarah,
happened.
and enough security to
The
make it feel like a
abandonment, the
presidential visit.
abuse.
Sarah wore a navy blue
still
dress,
remember the look on
simple,
her face when she
conservative,
told me
nothing
what
flashy. Her short hair was
The
styled
abandonment,
neatly.
the abuse.
No jewelry except the small silver locket
still
I'd given
remember
her
the
for
look
her
on her
16th
face when she
birthday.
told me what
She
happened.
looked young, vulnerable,
The abandonment,
but there was
the
steel in her
abuse.
spine as we walked through the gauntlet of cameras.
I still remember the look
Sarah,
on her face
are you
when she
nervous?
told me
A
what
reporter
happened.
shouted. She stopped,
abandonment,
looked
the
directly at the
abuse.
camera. I'm ready to tell the truth.
I still remember
The
the look
courtroom
on her
was
face
packed,
when she told
every
me what
seat
happened.
filled. The jury, 7
The
women,
abandonment,
5 men,
the
diverse in
abuse.
age and ethnicity, sat attentive in the
still
jury
remember the
box.
look on her face when
Federal
she told
Judge
me what
Mary Ann
happened.
Walsh presided, a
The
woman in her
abandonment,
60s
the
with silver hair
abuse.
and a reputation for running a tight
I still
courtroom.
remember the look on
David
her
sat
face
at the
when she
defense
told me
table
what
in a suit that
happened.
couldn't hide how much weight he'd
The
lost in jail.
abandonment, the
His face was
abuse.
gaunt, eyes hollow.
I still remember
He looked
the look
nothing
on
like
her
the
face when
confident
she
man
told
who'd
me
pushed
what
Sarah
happened.
onto that porch.
The
Prison was eating him
abandonment, the
alive,
abuse.
and I felt no sympathy.
I
Robert
still
and
remember
Patricia
the look
sat
on
in the
her face
gallery,
when she told me
unable
what
to sit with
happened.
David due to their own pending
The
charges.
abandonment, the
Patricia's
abuse.
designer clothes couldn't mask her haggard
I still
appearance.
remember the look on her
Robert
face
looked
when she
decades
told me
older,
what happened.
his former authority completely
The
gone.
abandonment, the
The prosecution's
abuse.
opening statement was delivered by Assistant
still
U.S.
remember the
Attorney
look on her
Daniel
face
Chen.
when she told me
He
what
spoke
happened.
clearly, methodically, building the case
abandonment,
brick
the
by brick.
abuse.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
I still
this
remember
case
the
is
look on
about
her
trust,
face when she told
about
me
a
what
man who
happened.
weaponized love to commit fraud,
abandonment,
about
the
a family who
abuse.
used their power and position to prey
I
on
still
vulnerable
remember the
women
look on
for
her face
decades.
when she told me what
Daniel
happened.
clicked a remote, and Sarah's face
abandonment,
appeared on the
the
screen, a photo
abuse.
from her wedding day, radiant
I
and
still
hopeful.
remember the look on her
This is
face
Sarah
when she
Chen
told me
Whitmore
what
3 years
happened.
ago, a 25-year-old
The
elementary
abandonment,
school
the
teacher,
abuse.
kind, trusting, in
I
love
still
with a man
remember the
she
look
thought
on
would
her
protect
face when
her.
she told me what
Another
happened.
click. Sarah
The
on that
abandonment,
porch,
the
frozen and
abuse.
barely conscious. This
I
is
still
Sarah
remember
on
the look
December
on her face when
24th,
she told me what
2025. After 3
The
years of
abandonment,
systematic
the
abuse,
abuse.
financial exploitation, and psychological
remember the look
torture.
on her face
The jury
when she
stared
told
at
me
the
what
contrast. Several looked
The
visibly upset.
abandonment,
The evidence will
abuse.
show that David Whitmore and his family
I still
executed a
remember the look on
sophisticated
her
fraud
face when
scheme
she
spanning
told me what
decades.
happened.
They targeted women with
The
resources,
abandonment, the
money,
abuse.
family wealth, connections. They
I still
isolated
remember
these
the
women,
look on her face when she
controlled
told me
them,
what happened.
stole from them.
The
And when the women
abandonment,
tried to
the
escape,
abuse.
the Whitmores threatened them with
remember the
institutionalization,
look on her
used
face when she
fabricated
told me what
psychiatric
happened.
evaluations, and
The
leveraged
abandonment,
connections
the
to silence their
abuse.
victims. Daniel walked
I still
closer to the
remember the
jury
look on her
box.
face when
You'll
she
hear
told
from
me what
Sarah.
happened.
You'll hear from other victims.
abandonment,
You'll see
the
video
abuse.
evidence, audio recordings, financial
I still remember the
documents.
look on her face
And when
when
you've
she
heard
told
all
me
the
what
evidence,
happened.
you'll have no doubt
The
that David
abandonment,
Whitmore is
the
guilty of every
abuse.
single charge.
I
Marcus
still
Brennan's
remember the
opening
look on her
statement was a
face when she told
masterclass
me
in
what
manipulation. He painted
The
Sarah as
abandonment,
mentally
the
unstable,
abuse.
vindictive, a woman who couldn't
I still
accept
remember
that
the
her
look on
marriage
her
failed.
face when she told
My
me what
client loved
happened.
his wife, Brennan said,
abandonment,
his voice
the
dripping with false
abuse.
sincerity.
I
He
still
supported her
remember the
through
look on
4
her face when
devastating
she told me what
miscarriages.
happened.
He paid for
The
therapy,
abandonment,
medication,
the abuse.
everything she needed.
I still remember
But
the
Sarah
look on
couldn't
her
move
face when
past
she
her
told me what
losses.
happened.
She blamed David.
The
She blamed his
abandonment,
family.
the abuse.
And when David finally suggested they seek
I
help,
still remember the look
professional
on her face when
psychiatric
she
help
told me
Sarah's
what
mother
happened.
arrived and convinced her daughter to destroy the
abandonment, the
Whitmore family
abuse.
rather than heal herself. I
still
wanted to
remember the
scream.
look on her face
Every
when she
word was
told me what
poison
happened.
wrapped in concern.
The
The prosecution
abandonment,
wants you to
the
believe that a
abuse.
respected attorney, the son of a distinguished
still remember
judge,
the look on
would
her
risk
face when
everything
she
to
told
steal
me what
money he didn't
happened.
need. Why?
The
David
abandonment,
Whitmore
the
earns
abuse.
$300,000 a year at his firm.
I still
His
remember
family
the
is
look on her
wealthy.
face when she
Why
told
would
me
he
what
need to
happened.
defraud his mother-in-law?
The
Because he
abandonment,
could,
the
I thought.
abuse.
Because he enjoyed it.
I still remember the look on
Because
her face
hurting
when she
people
told
gave
me
him
what
power.
happened.
Ladies and gentlemen,
abandonment,
this
the
case
abuse.
isn't about fraud. It's about a troubled
I still
woman and
remember
her
the look on
enabling
her
mother
face
who
when
can't
she
accept
told me what
responsibility for a failed marriage.
The
Don't
abandonment,
let sympathy
the
cloud your
abuse.
judgment. Look at the facts.
I still
And when you
remember the
do,
look on her
you'll
face
find
when
my
she told me
client
what
innocent of
happened.
all charges.
The
The first
abandonment,
witness was
the
Detective
abuse.
Lisa Moreno. She testified
I still
about
remember the
responding
look
to the
on her
wellness
face when
check
she
3
told me
months
what
before
happened.
Christmas, about seeing Sarah with a
abandonment,
black
the
eye,
abuse.
about the way Sarah had shrunk when
I
David
still
entered the
remember the
room.
look on her face
Did
when
you
she
believe
told me what
Mrs.
happened.
Whitmore when she said she'd
The
walked into a
abandonment,
cabinet?
the
Daniel
abuse.
asked. No, I didn't.
I
In my
still remember
15
the
years
look
as
on
a
her face when
detective,
she told
I've
me
seen
what
hundreds of
happened.
domestic violence cases.
abandonment,
Mrs.
the
Whitmore showed
abuse.
classic signs of an abuse victim:
I still
fear,
remember the look on her
hesitation,
face when she told me what
hyper-awareness of
happened.
her husband's reactions.
The abandonment,
The injury was
the
consistent
abuse.
with being struck, not with
I still
walking into
remember the look on
furniture.
her face when she
Brennan's
told me what
cross-examination tried to paint Moreno
The
as biased,
abandonment, the
as having already
abuse.
decided David was guilty before
I still remember
investigating,
the look on her
but she
face
held
when she
firm,
told me what
professional, and
happened.
unshakable. Next was Agent
abandonment,
Rachel
the
Morrison from the
abuse.
FBI. She walked the
still
jury
remember
through the
the look on her
financial
face
evidence
when she
charts
told me what
showing
happened.
money flowing from my accounts
The
to David's,
abandonment, the
then disappearing
abuse.
into shell companies and offshore
I
accounts.
still remember the
How
look
much
on her
money
face
did the
when she
defendant
told me
steal
what
from
happened.
Margaret Chen? Daniel
The
asked.
abandonment,
We've
the
traced
abuse.
$247,000 directly.
remember the look
Based
on
on
her face
patterns
when
and
she told me
testimony
what
from other
happened.
victims, we believe the
The
total amount
abandonment,
stolen
the
from multiple women
abuse.
over 10 years exceeds
I
$4.3
still
million.
remember the look on her face when she told me
Gasps
what
from the
happened.
gallery. The jury looked shocked.
abandonment, the
Even the
abuse.
judge raised her eyebrows. Brennan tried to
still
argue
remember
that
the
gifts
look on her
between
face
family
when she
members
told me
weren't
what
theft,
happened.
that Margaret had willingly
The
sent money,
abandonment, the
but Agent
abuse.
Morrison was ready. Mr. Whitmore
I still
solicited
remember the
funds
look on
under
her
false
face when she
pretenses.
told me what happened.
He claimed the money was for medical
The
treatments,
abandonment, the
home repairs,
abuse.
investments that would benefit his
I
wife.
still remember the look
None
on
of those
her face when she
representations
told
were
me what
true.
happened.
That's textbook wire
The
fraud.
abandonment, the
The third witness of the day was Dr. Rebecca Martinez.
remember the look
She
on her
explained
face when
Sarah's
she told me what
diagnoses,
happened.
complex PTSD,
The
depression with
abandonment, the
anxious
abuse.
features, and testified that these were direct
still
results
remember
of
the look on
prolonged
her face
abuse.
when she told me
Is it
what
possible
happened.
Mrs. Whitmore fabricated her
abandonment,
allegations
the
due to mental
abuse.
illness? Brennan asked, on
I still remember the
cross-examination.
look on her face when
No,
she told me
her
what
symptoms
happened.
are entirely consistent
The
with trauma,
abandonment, the
not with
abuse.
delusional disorder or any psychotic
I still
condition.
remember the look on her
She doesn't
face when she
exhibit
told me
magical
what
thinking,
happened.
paranoia,
The
or distorted
abandonment, the
perception of reality.
abuse.
She exhibits
I
hypervigilance,
still remember the
emotional
look on her
numbing,
face when
and
she told me
intrusive
what
memories,
happened.
all hallmarks of PTSD from
abandonment,
psychological
the
abuse.
abuse.
But she's been diagnosed with
I
depression.
still remember the look
Couldn't
on
that
her
affect
face
her
when she
memory
told
or
me what
judgment?
happened.
Depression doesn't
The
cause people to
abandonment, the
fabricate elaborate
abuse.
false memories complete with video video
I still
evidence,
remember the look on
financial
her face when she told
documentation,
me what
and
happened.
corroborating witnesses.
The
What you're
abandonment,
suggesting
the
is medically
abuse.
impossible. By lunch
I still
recess,
remember the
the
look on her
prosecution
face
had
when she
laid
told
solid
me what
groundwork.
happened.
But I knew the hardest
The
part was coming.
abandonment, the
This
abuse.
afternoon, Sarah would testify.
I still
We ate in a
remember the
private
look on
room
her
at the
face when
courthouse
she told me
sandwiches
what
neither of
happened.
us could taste.
The
Sarah was
abandonment,
pale,
the
her hands
abuse.
trembling as she tried to drink water.
I still remember
I don't
the
know
look
if I
on her
can do
face when
this,
she told
she
me what
whispered.
happened.
You can, I
The
said firmly.
abandonment, the
You're the strongest
abuse.
person I know, stronger than
I
David,
still remember the
stronger
look on
than
her
his whole
face when she
corrupt
told me
family.
what happened.
You're going to walk into that courtroom and tell your
abandonment,
truth,
the
and nothing they
abuse.
say can take that from you.
I
Laura
still
joined
remember
us,
the look on
her
her
expression
face when she told
serious.
me what happened.
Sarah, Brennan is going to
The
be vicious.
abandonment, the
He's going to bring up the
abuse.
miscarriages, your depression,
I still remember
every
the look on
vulnerable
her
moment.
face when she
He's
told
going
me
to
what
try to make
happened.
you cry, make you
The
angry,
abandonment,
make you
the
look unstable.
abuse.
That's his job.
I
So
still
what do I
remember the
do?
look on her face
You
when
stay
she told me
calm.
what happened.
You tell the truth.
The abandonment, the
You remember that the
abuse.
jury is full of regular people who
I still
understand
remember
what
the look
abuse
on her
looks like.
face when she told
They
me
have
what
daughters,
happened.
sisters,
The
mothers.
abandonment,
They'll see
the
themselves in you.
abuse.
Laura squeezed Sarah's
I
hand.
still remember the
And
look
if you
on
need
her
a break,
face
we
when
can
she
request
told me what
one.
happened.
Judge Walsh is
The
sympathetic.
abandonment,
She'll give
the
you time if you need
abuse.
it. At 1:30
I
p.m.,
still
court
remember the
resumed.
look on her face
Daniel
when she
Chen
told me what
stood.
happened.
The United States calls
The
Sarah Chen
abandonment,
Whitmore to the stand.
abuse.
Sarah stood slowly,
I still remember the look
walked
on
to
her
the witness
face when
stand like
told
she
me
was
what
walking to
happened.
her own execution.
The abandonment,
The bailiff
the
swore her in.
abuse.
She sat,
I still
her
remember
hands
the look
folded
on
in her
face
lap,
when she told
and
me
looked
what
at the
happened.
jury with clear eyes.
The abandonment,
Mrs. Whitmore,
the
Daniel began
abuse.
gently, can you tell the jury
I
how you
still
met
remember
David
the look
Whitmore?
on her face
We
when
met
she
on a
told me
dating
what
app
happened.
called Hinge 5
The
years ago.
abandonment, the
I was 23,
abuse.
teaching second grade.
I
He
still
was
remember the
28,
look on her
working at
face
his
when she
father's
told
law
me what
firm.
happened.
We matched,
The
started
abandonment,
messaging,
the
met for coffee.
abuse.
Sarah's voice was
I
quiet
still
but
remember the
steady.
look on her
He was
face when she
charming,
told me what
funny.
happened.
He seemed genuinely
The
interested in my
abandonment,
life,
the
my
abuse.
students, my dreams.
I still
When did
remember
things
the look on her
change?
face when she
After
told
we got
me what
engaged,
happened.
he started suggesting
The
I didn't need to
abandonment,
work,
the
that Whitmore
abuse.
wives stayed home, focused
I
on
still
family.
remember the look on
I
her
thought he
face
meant
when
we'd
she
start a
told me what
family
happened.
soon, that I'd be a
The
stay-at-home mom.
abandonment, the
I didn't realize he
abuse.
meant I'd have no income, no
I still remember
independence,
the look on
no
her
life
face when
outside
she
of
told
serving
me
his
what
family.
happened.
She described the
The
wedding,
abandonment,
the
the
immediate pressure to get
abuse.
pregnant, the first
I
miscarriage.
still remember
Her
the look
voice
on her
cracked
face
when she talked
told
about
me what
losing the
happened.
baby, but she pushed
The
through.
abandonment,
Patricia
the
David's mother said
abuse.
maybe I'd been too stressed,
I still remember the
that
look on
maybe
her
I wasn't
face when she
taking good
told me
enough
what
care of
happened.
myself.
The
David started
abandonment,
monitoring what I
the
ate,
abuse.
how much I exercised when I
still
slept.
remember the look on
He
her
said it
face
was
when she
because he
told me what
cared,
happened.
because he wanted the next
The
pregnancy to
abandonment,
succeed.
the abuse.
Did the next pregnancy succeed?
I still
No,
remember the
I
look on
lost
her
3 more
face when she
babies.
told me what
12
happened.
weeks, 14 weeks, 8 weeks.
abandonment,
Each
the
time, the blame got
abuse.
worse. Patricia said
I
maybe
still
my
remember
body
the
was
look on her
rejecting the
face when she
pregnancies
told me
because
what
I wasn't
happened.
Whitmore material.
The
David's uncle
abandonment,
Edmund
the
suggested I had
abuse.
psychological issues causing the
I still
miscarriages.
remember the look on
They
her
made me
face when
believe
she
I was
told me
killing
what
my own
happened.
babies. Tears
The
streamed down
abandonment,
Sarah's
the
face, but her
abuse.
voice never wavered. The jury was
I still remember the
transfixed.
look on her face
Did
when she
Mr.
told me
Whitmore
what
ever
happened.
physically harm you? He
The
pushed me,
abandonment, the
grabbed my arms
abuse.
hard enough to leave bruises. Once
I
he
still
shoved me
remember the
against a
look on
wall
her
when I
face when
questioned
she
a
told me
charge on
what
his credit
happened.
card. But mostly,
The abandonment,
it was
the
psychological,
abuse.
constant criticism. Telling
still
me I was
remember the look on
worthless,
her face when she
stupid,
told
a
me what
disappointment. Threatening to have
The
me committed if I
abandonment, the
told anyone what was
abuse.
happening. Daniel showed video
I still
clips, the
remember
ring
the look on
footage
her
of Sarah
face
on
when
the
she told me
porch,
what
the
happened.
audio of the Whitmore family
The
mocking her.
abandonment, the
With each piece of
abuse.
evidence, Sarah narrated what
I
was
still
happening,
remember the look
how
on her
she'd
face
felt,
when she told
what
me
she'd
what
been thinking.
happened.
By 3 p.m., when
abandonment,
Judge
the
Walsh called a
abuse.
recess, the entire courtroom was in
I still
tears,
remember the look on
except
her
David.
face when she
He
told me
sat
what
stone-faced, showing no
The
emotion.
abandonment,
That was
the
incredible,
abuse.
Laura whispered to Sarah as we left the
I
courtroom.
still remember the
You're
look
doing
on her
amazing,
face when she told me
but I
what
saw how
happened.
much it was costing her.
The
The trembling
abandonment,
hands, the glazed
abuse.
eyes, the way she flinched when
I
someone
still
walked
remember
too
the look on
close.
her face when she told me what
Testifying was
happened.
ripping open every wound,
The
forcing her to
abandonment,
bleed
the
in public.
abuse.
Tomorrow is cross-examination,
I still
Laura
remember
warned.
the look on her face
That's
when
when
she
it gets
told me
really
what
hard.
happened.
Sarah nodded.
The
I know,
abandonment, the abuse.
but I have to finish this. For Catherine,
I still remember the
for
look
all
on
the
her
other women
face when
David
she
hurt.
told me what
I
happened.
have to make sure everyone knows the
The
truth.
abandonment,
As we
the
left the courthouse, a woman approached
I
mid-30s,
still remember
professional
the look on
clothes,
her face when she
kind
told me
eyes.
what happened.
Sarah?
The
I'm
abandonment,
Jennifer Walsh,
the abuse.
one of David's victims. Sarah
I still remember
stopped,
the look on
recognition
her face when
dawning.
she told me what happened.
From the investigator's report,
The the abandonment.
I just wanted
the
to say thank you.
abuse.
I've been too scared to tell my
I still
story
remember the
publicly,
look on her face
but
when
watching
she
you
told
in
me what
there, your
happened.
courage, it's giving me mine
The
back.
abandonment.
I'm
the
testifying next
abuse.
week because of you. They
I still
hugged,
remember the
two
look on her
survivors
face when
supporting
she
each
told me
other,
what happened.
and I realized that whatever happened
The
with the verdict,
abandonment, the
Sarah had already won
abuse.
something more important.
I
She'd
still
broken the
remember the look
silence,
on her face when
and
she told
silence
me
was
what
the only
happened.
thing that had ever protected
The
the Whitmores.
abandonment, the
Not anymore.
abuse.
Day 2 of trial
I still
began with
remember the
Marcus
look on
Brennan
her
circling
face when she
Sarah like a
told me what
predator who'd
happened.
scented blood.
The
She sat in the
abandonment,
witness
the
box,
abuse.
hands clasped tightly, jaw set.
I still remember
I'd
the look
watched
on
her
her
prepare
face
for
when
this
she
all
told me what
night,
happened.
Laura throwing every vicious
The
question at her
abandonment,
until
the
Sarah could answer
abuse.
without flinching. But
I
theory
still
and
remember the
practice were
look on her
different
face when
animals.
she told me what
Mrs.
happened.
Whitmore, Brennan began,
abandonment,
his tone
the
deceptively
abuse.
gentle. You testified yesterday
still
that you
remember the
suffered
look on
4
her face when she
miscarriages
told
during
me
your
what
marriage.
happened.
That must have been
The
devastating.
abandonment, the
It was.
abuse.
And during this time, did
I
my
still
client
remember the
support
look
you,
on her
pay
face
for
when
medical
she told
care,
me what happened.
hold you while you grieved?
The
Sarah's jaw
abandonment, the
tightened.
abuse.
He was there physically,
I still remember the
but
look
emotionally.
on her face when she told me
Please
what
answer the
happened.
question. Did
The
he or did he
abandonment,
not
the
support you through your
abuse.
losses? He paid for medical
I still
care,
remember
yes.
the look on her face
He took
when she
time
told
off
me
work
what
to attend
happened.
doctor's appointments?
The abandonment,
Sometimes.
the abuse.
He researched fertility specialists?
I
He
still
said he
remember the
did.
look on her face when
Mrs.
she
Whitmore,
told me
isn't
what
it true that
happened.
after each miscarriage,
The
you became
abandonment,
increasingly
the
depressed,
abuse.
withdrawn, difficult to live with?
I still remember
Laura
the look
shot
on
to
her
her feet.
face when she told me
Objection.
what happened.
Argumentative and assumes
The
facts not in
abandonment,
evidence.
the abuse.
Sustained, Judge Walsh said.
I still remember the look on her
Rephrase,
face when she
Mr.
told me
Brennan.
what happened.
Brennan smiled
The
coldly.
abandonment,
Did you
the
experience
abuse.
depression after your miscarriages?
I still
Yes,
remember the look
anyone
on her
would.
face when she
Did
told me
that
what
depression
happened.
affect your ability to
The
function,
abandonment,
to maintain
the
your household,
abuse.
to be present in your marriage?
I still remember
Sarah
the look
took
on
a
her
breath.
face when she
I
told me what
recognized the
happened.
technique Laura had taught her.
The
Pause,
abandonment, the
think,
abuse.
answer truthfully but carefully.
I still
My
remember
depression
the look
made
on
daily
her face when
tasks
she told me
difficult.
what happened.
But David's family made it
The
worse
abandonment,
by
the
constantly
abuse.
blaming me for the losses, by
I
telling me
still
I was
remember the look on her
defective.
face when
Did
she told
anyone
me
ever
what
use the
happened.
word defective?
The
Or is that your
abandonment,
interpretation?
the abuse.
Patricia said, and I quote,
I still
"A
remember
woman
the
who
look on
can't
her
carry a
face when
baby
she
to
told
term
me
is
what
defective."
happened.
It's on the Ring camera footage.
abandonment, the
Brennan moved to
abuse.
different ground. Speaking of that footage,
still remember
you
the look
installed
on
a
her
Ring
face when
doorbell
she
without
told me
your
what
husband's
happened.
knowledge or consent, correct?
The abandonment,
I
the
installed home security
abuse.
equipment at my residence. That's
I still
legal.
remember the look on
But
her
you didn't
face when
tell
she
him.
told me what happened.
No. Why not?
The abandonment,
Sarah looked
the
directly at the jury.
abuse.
Because I was collecting evidence.
I still
I knew
remember the
something
look on
was
her
wrong.
face when she
I knew
told
I
me what
wasn't as
happened.
crazy as they said I was.
The
I needed
abandonment,
proof.
the abuse.
So you were spying on your husband?
I still
I was
remember the
documenting
look on
my
her
own
face
life in
when
my
she
own
told me
home.
what happened.
Brennan pulled out documents.
The abandonment,
Mrs.
the
Whitmore,
abuse.
I have here a psychiatric evaluation
remember
from
the look
Dr.
on her
Edmund
face
Whitmore
when she told
conducted
me
in
what
September
happened.
of last year. It
The
indicates you
abandonment,
suffer
the
from paranoid
abuse.
ideation, delusional thinking,
still remember
and
the look on her
possible
face when
borderline
she told me
personality
what
disorder. Does that sound like
The
someone whose
abandonment,
judgment
the
we should trust?
abuse.
That evaluation is fake,
I still
Sarah
remember the
said
look on her
clearly.
face when she
I was
told me
never
what
Dr.
happened.
Whitmore's patient.
The
I never
abandonment,
consented
the
to be evaluated
abuse.
by him. He
I still
fabricated that
remember the look
entire
on her
document.
face when she told me
That's
what
a serious
happened.
accusation.
The
Do you have
abandonment,
proof?
the abuse.
Yes. My actual medical records
I
show
still
I was
remember the
never
look on
treated
her
by him.
face when she
The
told me what
FBI's
happened.
investigation confirmed the
The
document was
abandonment,
fraudulent.
the
And Dr.
abuse.
Whitmore has a history of falsifying
remember the
records. He
look on
lost
her
his
face when she
California
told me
medical
what
license for
happened.
exactly that.
The
Brennan's
abandonment,
expression
the
flickered a crack in his
abuse.
composure. Let's
I
discuss
still
the
remember
money.
the look on her face
Your
when
mother
she
sent
told me what
substantial
happened.
sums to your household over 3
The
years.
abandonment, the
You claim you knew nothing
abuse.
about it? That's correct.
I still remember
Mrs.
the look on
Whitmore,
her face when
you
she told me
expect this
what
jury to
happened.
believe that $300,000 flowed
abandonment,
into
the
your household and you
abuse.
had no idea? I
I
had
still
no
remember
access
the
to our
look on her face
finances.
when she told me
David
what
controlled all accounts.
The
I received an
abandonment,
allowance
the
of $500 per month for groceries and
I
personal
still remember
items.
the look on her
Everything
face when
else
she told me
required his
what
approval.
happened.
$500?
The abandonment,
Brennan's
the
tone dripped
abuse.
skepticism. For a woman living
I
in a $1
still
million
remember the
home
look
in
on her
Cherry
face
Creek?
when she told me what happened.
Yes. And if I spent
The
more, I
abandonment,
had to
the
justify every
abuse.
penny with receipts. Isn't
I
it
still
possible,
remember the
Mrs.
look on her face when she
Whitmore,
told me
that
what
you knew
happened.
exactly where that money was,
The
but you and your
abandonment,
mother
the
concocted this
abuse.
fraud story when your marriage fell apart?
I still
A
remember
way
the
to
look on
extract
her
a
face when
settlement?
she told me what
Sarah's
happened.
eyes flashed.
The
No,
abandonment, the
that's
the
not
abuse.
possible. Because if I'd known about the
I
money,
still remember the
I would
look
have
on her
used it to
face when she
escape
told
years
me what
earlier.
happened.
I would have had resources
The
to leave.
abandonment, the
Instead, I
abuse.
believed I had nothing. David made
I
sure
still
I believed
remember the
that.
look on her
But you're
face when she
claiming
told
money
me what
now.
happened.
In your divorce filing, you're seeking
abandonment,
demands in
abandonment,
damages.
the abuse.
I'm seeking accountability.
I
There's
still
a
remember
difference.
the look on her face
Brennan
when she
switched
told me
tactics
what
again,
happened.
this time bringing up the professor and
abandonment,
coworker
the
Sarah had
abuse.
accused. You have a history of making
I still
accusations
remember the
against
look on
men,
her
don't
face
you?
when she told me
I
what
have a
happened.
history of being victimized by men and having
abandonment,
institutions
the
fail to
abuse.
protect me, Sarah corrected.
I still remember the look
That
on her
professor
face when
is
she
now
told
under
me what
investigation
happened.
by multiple
The
universities.
abandonment, the
That coworker was
abuse.
arrested 6 months ago for
I
sexual
still
assault.
remember the look on
I
her
was right
face
about
when
them,
she told me what
just like I'm
happened.
right about David.
The
Or you're a
abandonment,
troubled
the
woman who
abuse.
sees abuse where none exists.
I still
Then
remember
explain
the
the
look
ring
on her
footage,
face when she
Sarah
told me
said,
what
her
happened.
voice rising. Explain the bank
abandonment,
records.
the
Explain
abuse.
Catherine Brennan. Brennan froze.
I still remember
Objection.
the look on her face when
Catherine
she
Brennan
told me
is
what
not
happened.
relevant to this case.
The
Judge
abandonment,
Walls
the
looked at
abuse.
Daniel Chin. Counsel?
I still
Daniel
remember the
stood.
look on her face
Your
when
Honor,
she told me what
Catherine
happened.
Brennan is extremely relevant.
abandonment,
She was
the
David Whitmore's
abuse.
first wife. She died under
I still
suspicious
remember the look on her
circumstances
face when she
after
told
he
me what
defrauded her
happened.
family of over $1 million
abandonment, the
using the
abuse.
exact same methods he used on
I
Sarah.
still remember the look on her
The
face when
FBI
she
is
told
currently
me what happened.
reopening her death investigation.
The abandonment,
The courtroom
the
erupted.
abuse.
Reporters scrambled for their
I
phones.
still remember
The
the
jury
look on
looked
her
shocked.
face when she
David
told me
went
what
pale.
happened.
Sidebar,
The
Judge Welsh
abandonment, the
ordered.
abuse.
The attorneys approached the bench.
I
I
still
couldn't
remember
hear
the
the
look on
whispered
her face
argument,
when
but
she
I
told
saw
me what
Brennan's face
happened.
turning red, saw
The
Daniel
abandonment,
calmly
the
presenting
abuse.
documents, saw the judge reviewing
I
them with
still remember the
increasing
look on her
interest.
face when she told me
Finally,
what
they
happened.
returned. The court will
The
allow limited
abandonment, the
testimony regarding
abuse.
Catherine Brennan to establish pattern and
I
practice,
still remember
Judge
the look
Walsh
on her
ruled.
face when she told
Continue,
me what
Mr. Brennan.
happened.
But Brennan had lost
The
his momentum.
abandonment, the abuse.
No further questions, he said curtly.
I still remember the
Daniel
look on her
stood
face
for redirect.
when she told me what happened.
Sarah,
The
tell the jury about
abandonment, the
Catherine Brennan.
abuse.
I didn't know about her until
I still
last
remember
week.
the look on her
David
face
never
when she
mentioned
told me
being
what
married
happened.
before. But the investigator found
abandonment,
records
the
showing he married
abuse.
Catherine in 2020,
I
defrauded
still
her
remember the
and her
look on her
family of
face
$1
when she
million,
told me what happened.
threatened her with
The
institutionalization when
abandonment,
she
the
tried to leave,
abuse.
and Sarah's voice
I
broke.
still remember the look on
She
her
died
face
of an
when she
apparent
told me what
overdose
happened.
in 2022.
The abandonment,
Just like
the
I almost
abuse.
died of hypothermia on December
I still remember
24th.
the look on her
What
face
do you
when she
believe
told me
happened to
what
Catherine?
happened.
Objection,
The abandonment,
Brennan
the
shouted.
abuse.
Speculation. I'll rephrase,
I still
Daniel
remember the
said.
look on her face when she
Based
told
on
me
your
what
experience
happened.
with David Whitmore,
The
do you
abandonment,
believe
the
Catherine's death
abuse.
was truly a suicide?
I
Sarah
still
looked at
remember the
David
look
for
on
the
her
first
face
time
when she
since
told
taking
me
the
what
stand.
happened.
He stared back,
The
his expression
abandonment,
cold
the
and empty.
abuse.
No, she
I
said
still
clearly.
remember the look on her face when
I
she
don't
told
believe
me
it
what
was
happened.
suicide. Because David
The
told me once
abandonment,
during
the
an argument
abuse.
that women who betrayed him ended
I
up
still
regretting it.
remember the look on
At the
her
time,
face when she
I
told me
thought he
what
meant
happened.
divorce settlements.
The
Now I think he meant
abandonment, the
Catherine.
abuse.
The implication hung in the air like
I
poison
still remember
gas.
the look on her
No
face
further
when she told me
questions,
what
Daniel
happened.
said. The prosecution spent the
abandonment,
rest of
the
the day calling
abuse.
other witnesses. Jennifer
I
Walsh
still remember the
testified
look on
about
her
losing
face when she told me what
$300,000 to
happened.
David's fake investment
The
schemes.
abandonment, the
Melissa
abuse.
Torres described how David had romanced her
I
for
still
6
remember the
months,
look on her
convinced
face
her
when
to
she
invest
told
in
me
a
what
restaurant
happened.
franchise that didn't exist,
The
then
abandonment,
disappeared
the
with her money.
abuse.
By the time court recessed at
I still
4:30,
remember
the
the
jury
look on
had
her
heard
face
from
when she
5 of
told me what
David's
happened.
victims, 5 women with
The
nearly
abandonment,
identical
the
stories,
abuse.
same patterns, same lies,
I still
same
remember the look on
devastation.
her face when she
It's
told me what
working,
happened.
Laura said as we left the courthouse.
abandonment,
The
the
jury's
abuse.
faces, they're disgusted. They believe
I
you,
still
Sarah.
remember the look on
But
her
Sarah
face when
barely
she
heard
told me
her.
what happened.
She was staring at her phone,
The
her face
abandonment,
ashen.
the abuse.
What is it? I asked. She
I
showed
still
me the
remember the
screen.
look on her face
A
when she
text
told
from
me
an
what
unknown
happened.
number. Catherine said no to.
abandonment, the
Look where that got her.
abuse.
Stop talking or you're
I
next.
still remember the
My
look
blood
on her
ran
face
cold.
when she told me what
Laura.
happened.
Laura was already
The
calling
abandonment,
Detective
the
Moreno.
abuse.
Within minutes, we had additional
I still
security.
remember the look on
The
her
threat was
face when she told me
documented,
what
turned
happened.
over to the FBI,
The
added to the growing
abandonment, the
pile of charges
abuse.
against David. He's in jail,
I still
Sarah
remember the
whispered.
look on her face when she told
How is
me
he
what
still
happened.
threatening me from jail?
The
He has people on the
abandonment,
outside, Laura
abuse.
said grimly. Family,
I
friends,
still remember the look on
business
her face when
associates,
she told me
people
what
who owe
happened.
him favors or are afraid
The
of what he knows
abandonment,
about them.
the abuse.
That night, we moved hotels again the
I
third
still
time in
remember
2
the look
weeks.
on her face
Sarah
when she
couldn't
told me
sleep.
what happened.
She paced the room, jumping at every sound,
abandonment, the
convinced someone was
abuse.
coming for her. Mom,
I still
she said
remember
at
the
2
look on
a.m.,
her
her
face when
voice
she
small
told
in
me
the
what
darkness.
happened.
What if they kill me
The
before the trial
abandonment,
ends?
the
What if I don't
abuse.
get to see him convicted? I
still
pulled her
remember the
close.
look on her
Then
face
your
when she told
testimony
me
is
what
already
happened.
on record. The jury has already heard you. Catherine's parents are testifying tomorrow. They're going to demand justice for their daughter. Even if something happened to you, which it won't, the trial would continue. David would still be convicted. Promise me something, Sarah said. If something happens to me, if I end up like Catherine, promise you won't let them call it suicide. Promise you'll fight until everyone knows the truth. Nothing is going to happen to you, I said fiercely. I won't let it. But I made the promise anyway, because I understood her fear. The Whitmores had spent decades destroying people who threatened them. They had money, connections, and absolutely no conscience. And cornered animals were the most dangerous. The next morning, Catherine's parents took the stand. Thomas and Linda Brennan were in their 60s, grief etched into every line of their faces. Linda clutched a photo of Catherine, the same photo Garrett had shown us, the beautiful blonde with sad, knowing eyes. Our daughter was brilliant, Thomas testified, his voice shaking. Stanford graduate, working in tech. She had her whole life ahead of her. Then she met David Whitmore. He described how David had charmed them, how he'd seemed like the perfect son-in-law. He was so attentive, so successful. We trusted him. When he suggested investments, we believed him. We gave him $600,000. Catherine gave him another $400,000 from her trust fund. And when did you realize something was wrong? Daniel asked. When Catherine called us crying, said David had lied about everything. The real estate deals didn't exist. The startup companies were shells. The money was gone. She wanted to divorce him, but he was threatening her, saying he'd have her committed, saying she'd lose everything. Linda took over, tears streaming. We told her to leave him anyway, come home to California, we'd protect her. But she was so scared. She said David had connections everywhere, that his father knew judges, his uncle could have her institutionalized. She felt trapped. What happened on June 15, 2022? Linda's voice broke completely. The police called. Said Catherine was dead. Overdose. They found a typed note saying she couldn't live with the shame of what she'd done to our family. She looked directly at David. But Catherine didn't do anything to us. He did. That monster stole our money and killed our daughter. If this scene touched your heart, tap like to let me know it resonated with you. Do you see a glimpse of your own story in theirs? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Objection. Brennan was on his feet. There's no evidence. Overruled, Judge Walsh said. The witness may express her opinion based on her knowledge of her daughter. Thomas pulled out his own evidence emails between Catherine and her therapist discussing her plans to divorce David, to start over, to eventually have children. Does this sound like a woman planning to kill herself? He asked the jury. Or does it sound like a woman planning to live? By the time the Brennans finished testifying, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom, except David's. He sat motionless, expressionless, as if the destruction of another family meant nothing to him, because it didn't. And that's what made him so terrifying. Day 5 of trial opened with a surprise. Marcus Brennan filed an emergency motion for a mistrial, claiming prejudicial testimony about Catherine Brennan had irreparably tainted the jury. Judge Walsh listened to his arguments with visible skepticism. Mr. Brennan, pattern evidence is admissible to show modus operandi. The Brennan testimony was properly admitted. Your Honor, the prejudicial impact far outweighs any probative value. My client cannot get a fair trial when the jury believes he's a murderer based on speculation and grief-stricken parents' opinions. Motion denied, Judge Walsh said firmly. The jury is capable of weighing evidence and drawing appropriate conclusions. Let's proceed. Brennan's face darkened, but he returned to his seat. David leaned over, whispering urgently to him. Whatever he said made Brennan's expression shift from anger to calculation. The prosecution called Agent Morrison back to the stand. She brought new evidence, financial records Tom Garrett had uncovered in the past 48 hours. Agent Morrison, what did your investigation reveal about the defendant's offshore accounts? Daniel asked. We traced funds to shell companies in the Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, and Panama. The total amount hidden offshore is approximately $3.8 million, accumulated over 10 years through multiple fraud schemes. She clicked through slides showing the money trail, intricate webs of transfers, corporate entities with names like Whitmore Investment Holdings LLC and Rocky Mountain Capital Partners, all owned by David or his family members. And these entities, did they conduct any legitimate business? No. They
I
existed
still
solely to
remember the look on
receive
her
and
face
launder
when she
stolen
told me what
funds.
happened.
There were no employees,
The
no products, no
abandonment, the
services,
abuse.
just bank accounts receiving wire
I still
transfers
remember
from
the look
fraud
on her
victims.
face when she told
The
me what
jury was
happened.
taking notes frantically.
The abandonment,
One
the
woman in the
abuse.
front row looked at David with pure disgust.
I still remember
We
the look
also
on her
found
face when
evidence,
she told me
Agent
what
Morrison
happened.
continued, that Robert Whitmore
abandonment,
helped
the
establish these
abuse.
entities using his legal
I
expertise
still
and
remember the
connections.
look on her face
Patricia
when she told
Whitmore
me what
signed
happened.
documents as corporate secretary
The
for at least 3 of them.
abandonment, the
This was a
abuse.
family operation.
I
Brennan's
still remember the look on her
cross-examination was
face when she
desperate.
told me what
Agent
happened.
Morrison, isn't it possible these were
abandonment,
legitimate
the
investment
abuse.
vehicles? That my client was
I
simply
still
managing
remember the
family
look on her
money?
face when she
No,
told me what happened.
because the money coming in was
The
obtained through
abandonment,
documented
the
fraud.
abuse.
You can't legitimately
I still
invest
remember
stolen
the look on her
funds, Mr.
face when she
Brennan.
told me what
But you can't
happened.
prove every single dollar
The
was stolen, can you?
abandonment, the
We can
abuse.
prove $2.4 million was taken
still
through
remember
false
the look on her
pretenses
face
from
when she
identified
told me what
victims.
happened.
We're still tracking the rest, but the
abandonment,
pattern
the
is consistent
abuse.
romance, marriage or engagement,
I still
theft,
remember the look on her
abandonment.
face when she
Next
told me
came
what
Harold
happened.
Mitchell, the disbarred
The
attorney who'd called me
abandonment,
after
the
the press
abuse.
conference. He was 70 now,
I still
wearing an
remember the look on her
ill-fitting
face
suit,
when she told
but his
me what
testimony
happened.
was devastating.
The
I opposed
abandonment,
Judge
the
Robert Whitmore in a
abuse.
custody case in 1998,
I still
Mitchell
remember the
explained.
look on her
My
face
client
when
was
she told
fleeing
me what
domestic
happened.
violence. I had medical
The
records,
abandonment,
photos,
the
testimony from
abuse.
therapists. Judge
I
Whitmore
still
threw it all
remember the
out,
look on her face
called my
when she
client
told me what
hysterical,
happened.
called me incompetent.
The abandonment,
What happened
the
after the ruling?
abuse.
Judge Whitmore awarded
I
full
still
custody
remember
to
the
the
look on her
abusive
face
father,
when
a
she
man
told
who
me what
donated
happened.
$50,000 to Judge Whitmore's
abandonment,
campaign
the
fund
abuse.
6 months earlier. Mitchell's
I still
voice
remember
shook
the
with
look
old
on her
rage.
face when she
3
told
months
me what
later, the
happened.
father hospitalized my client.
abandonment,
She barely
the
survived.
abuse.
I tried to appeal, tried to
I still
report
remember
Judge
the look
Whitmore
on
for
her face
corruption.
when she told me what
Instead,
happened.
he had me disbarred on
The
fabricated
abandonment,
ethics
the
charges.
abuse.
Do you have evidence of the
I
$50,000
still remember
payment?
the look on her
I
face
do
when
now.
she told me what
I've been
happened.
tracking Judge Whitmore's finances for 20
abandonment, the
years,
abuse.
waiting for someone to listen. Mitchell
I
produced
still
bank
remember the look
records
on her
showing the
face when she
transfer.
told me what happened.
$50,000 from Marcus Henderson to a
abandonment,
PAC
the
controlled by Judge
abuse.
Whitmore, dated March 5,
I still remember the
1998.
look on her face when
Custody
she told
ruling
me
came
what
down
happened.
April 2nd. The
The
courtroom
abandonment,
buzzed.
the abuse.
Judge Walsh's face was granite.
I still remember
Robert
the look on
Whitmore,
her face
sitting
when
in the
she told me
gallery,
what happened.
looked like he might vomit.
The abandonment,
Daniel
the
entered the documents into
abuse.
evidence. No further
I
questions.
still remember the
Brennan
look on her
tried to
face
discredit
when she told
Mitchell,
me
brought
what
up his
happened.
disbarment, suggested
The
he had a
abandonment,
vendetta,
the
implied his
abuse.
evidence was fabricated.
I
But
still
Mitchell
remember
held
the look on
firm.
her face when
I
she
lost
told
my
me what
career, my
happened.
marriage, my reputation because I
abandonment,
tried to do the right thing.
abuse.
I've spent 20 years
I
as a
still remember the
paralegal
look on
making
her face when she
$30,000
told
a
me what
year when I
happened.
should have been a senior partner somewhere making 10
abandonment, the
times that.
abuse.
You're damn right I have a vendetta.
I still remember
Against
the look on
corruption,
her face when she told me
against
what
powerful
happened.
men who destroy lives
The
and get away with
abandonment,
it.
the
The jury
abuse.
was captivated. This
I
wasn't
still
just
remember
about
the look
David
on her
anymore.
face when she
It
told
was
me
about
what
an
happened.
entire system rigged
The
to protect the
abandonment,
wealthy and
abuse.
powerful. During lunch recess,
I still
Laura
remember
pulled
the
me
look on her
aside.
face when she
The
told
judge
me what
wants to see us
happened.
in chambers.
The
You, me,
abandonment,
Sarah,
the
and the prosecutors.
abuse.
Why? I don't know,
I still remember
but
the
it's
look
unusual.
on her face when she
Judge
told me what
Walsh's
happened.
chambers were lined with law
The
books and family
abandonment,
photos.
the abuse.
She gestured for us to sit,
I
her
still
expression
remember the look on her
serious.
face when she
Off
told
the
me what
record, she
happened.
began, I want to discuss
The
something that's been
abandonment, the
bothering me since this
abuse.
trial started. I've known Robert
still
Whitmore
remember
for
the
30
look on her
years.
face when
We
she
served
told
on
me
the
what
bench at the
happened.
same time. I always thought he was a good man,
abandonment,
tough
the
but fair.
abuse.
Now I'm watching evidence that
I
he's been
still
corrupt
remember
for
the look on her
decades.
face when she
She
told
looked
me
at
what
Sarah.
happened.
How many more victims
The
are there?
abandonment, the
We've identified
abuse.
23 so far, Laura said.
I still remember
But we
the
think
look
there
on
are
her
more.
face when she told me
People
what
too
happened.
scared to come forward,
The
or who don't even
abandonment,
realize
the
they were
abuse.
victimized. Judge Walsh nodded
I still
slowly.
remember the
This
look
is
on her
bigger than a
face when she
criminal
told me what
trial.
happened.
This is a systemic failure of judicial
abandonment, the
oversight.
abuse.
I'm going to be recommending a full investigation of
remember
every
the look on
case
her
Robert
face when
Whitmore
she told me
presided
what
over in his
happened.
30 years on the bench.
The abandonment,
Hundreds of
the
cases,
abuse.
thousands of lives affected.
I still
Your
remember the
Honor,
look on her
Daniel said
face when she
carefully,
told me what
are you
happened.
concerned this could affect the current
The
trial?
abandonment,
No.
the abuse.
David Whitmore's guilt or innocence stands
I
on the
still
evidence
remember the
against
look on
him.
her face
But
when
I
she
want
told
you
me
all
what
to
happened.
understand, this family's
The
corruption
abandonment,
runs
the
deep,
abuse.
deeper than we've seen yet. And
I
it's
still
going to get
remember the
ugly
look on her
before it gets
face when she
better.
told me what
She was
happened.
right. That afternoon,
abandonment,
Brennan
the
called his first
abuse.
defense witness, Jessica
I still
Winters.
remember the look on
David's
her face
pregnant
when she
mistress
told me
walked
what
to the
happened.
stand, her baby bump
The
visible under a
abandonment,
modest
the
dress.
abuse.
She looked young, scared, and
I still
thoroughly
remember the
coached.
look on her face
Miss
when she
Winters,
told me what
Brennan
happened.
began gently. How
The
long have you known
abandonment,
David
the
Whitmore?
abuse.
3 years. We work at the same
I
firm.
still remember the look
And did
on
you
her
develop a
face when she
romantic
told me what
relationship?
happened.
Yes.
The
David told me
abandonment,
his
the
marriage was over.
abuse.
That Sarah was mentally
I
ill
still
and
remember
refused
the
to
look on her
divorce him.
face when she told me
He
what
said he was
happened.
waiting for the right time to
The
leave
abandonment,
when
the
Sarah was stable
abuse.
enough to handle it. I watched
I still
Sarah's
remember
face
the
go
look on her
pale.
face when she told me what
This
happened.
woman, this girl, really,
The abandonment, the
only
abuse.
26 years old, was going to paint David as the
I still
victim.
remember the look on
Did
her
David
face
ever
when she
discuss
told me
Sarah's
what
mental
happened.
health with you? Often.
The abandonment,
He was so
the
worried about her.
abuse.
He said she'd threatened
I
suicide
still
multiple
remember the look on her
times,
face
that
when
she
she
was
told me what
paranoid,
happened.
accused him of terrible
The
things that weren't
abandonment,
true.
the
He felt
abuse.
guilty leaving her because he was
I
afraid
still
she'd hurt
remember the look
herself.
on her face when
Did
she
you ever
told me what
witness David
happened.
being cruel to Sarah?
The abandonment,
Never.
the
He was patient and kind, even when she was
I
being
still remember
difficult.
the look on her face
When she accused
told me
him of
what
stealing
happened.
from her mother, he just
The
looked sad.
abandonment, the
He said
abuse.
Sarah's delusions were getting worse.
I still
Brennan
remember the
walked her
look on
through a
her
narrative
face when
where
she
David
told me
was a
what
saint
happened.
and Sarah was an
The
unstable
abandonment,
manipulator.
the abuse.
Every question was designed to reinforce the
I still
defense's
remember the
theory.
look on her face
Then
when
came
she told
Daniel's
me what
cross-examination. Miss
The
Winters,
abandonment,
you're
the
4 months
abuse.
pregnant with Mr. Whitmore's child,
I
correct?
still remember the
Yes.
look on her face when
And
she
you
told
began
me
your
what
affair with
happened.
him approximately 2 years
The
ago?
abandonment, the
Jessica
abuse.
hesitated. I
still
don't remember
the look on her
exactly.
face when she
Let
told
me
what
refresh your
happened.
memory.
The
Daniel pulled
abandonment,
out phone
the
records.
abuse.
Text messages between you and
I still
David
remember
start
the
in
look on her
January
face when she told me
2023.
what happened.
Sarah was
The
still living with him,
abandonment, the abuse.
still married to him.
I
He
still
hadn't
remember
filed
the
for
look on her
divorce.
face when she
So
told
when
me what
exactly did he
happened.
tell you his marriage was over?
The abandonment, the abuse.
He said they were separated. But they
I
weren't, were
still
they?
remember the look
They
on
lived
her
in the
face
same
when she
house,
told me what
slept in the
happened.
same bed.
The abandonment,
Sarah believed
the
her marriage was
abuse.
intact until Christmas Eve
I
2025.
still remember the
I
look
didn't
on her
know
face
that,
when she told
Jessica
me what
said
happened.
weakly. You didn't
The
know?
abandonment,
Or you
the
didn't want to know?
abuse.
Daniel's voice was sharp now.
I still remember
Miss
the look on her
Winters,
face when she told
did you
me
know
what
that David
happened.
funded your lifestyle, the apartment he
abandonment,
rented for
the
you,
abuse.
the car he bought you, the expensive trips with
still
money
remember the
stolen
look
from
on her
Sarah's
face
mother?
when she told me what
Objection. Brennan was on his
The
feet.
abandonment, the
Assumes
abuse.
facts, not in evidence.
I
Sustained,
still remember
Judge
the
Walsh
look on her
said.
face when she told me what
Rephrase.
happened.
Miss Winters,
The
David paid for your
abandonment, the
apartment, correct?
abuse.
Yes. Approximately
I still remember the look on her
$3,500
face
per
when
month?
she told me what
I think
happened.
so. And he bought you
The
a BMW
abandonment,
X
the
Series 3
abuse.
in July 2024?
I still remember
Yes,
the
but
look on her face
and he
when
took
she
you on
told me
trips
what
to Aspen,
happened.
Santa Fe, and San
The
Diego in
abandonment,
2025?
the abuse.
Yes. All while telling
I still
Sarah they were
remember
too
the look
poor
on
to
her
buy her
face
winter
when she
boots with
told me
holes
what
in them.
happened.
All while claiming to
The
Margaret Chen that he
abandonment,
needed
the
money for Sarah's
abuse.
medical care. You were the
I still
recipient of
remember
stolen
the look on
funds,
her
Miss
face when she told me what
Winters.
happened.
Jessica's face
The
crumpled.
abandonment, the
I didn't know.
abuse.
I thought he had money. His
I still
family is
remember the
wealthy.
look on her face
How was
when
I
she told
supposed
me
to
what
know?
happened.
You knew he was married. You knew
abandonment,
his
the
wife thought the marriage was
abuse.
intact. You chose to
I
believe his
still remember
lies
the look on
because
her
it
face when
benefited
she
you.
told me what happened.
Daniel's voice was ice.
The
No further
abandonment,
questions.
the abuse.
Jessica fled the stand in tears.
I still remember
The
the
jury
look on her
watched her
face
go
when she
with
told me what
expressions
happened.
ranging from pity to contempt.
The abandonment,
Brennan
the
called 2 more
abuse.
witnesses, colleagues from David's firm,
I
who
still remember the
testified to
look
his
on her
excellent
face when she
character.
told me what
But
happened.
Daniel's cross-examinations
The
revealed both
abandonment,
had
the
received loans from
abuse.
David that were never repaid.
I
Their
still
testimony
remember the
was
look on her
worthless.
face when she told
By the
me
end
what
of day
happened.
5, the prosecution's case was
abandonment, the
airtight.
abuse.
The defense had nothing but character witnesses who'd
remember
been
the look on her
compromised,
face when
and a
she told me
mistress
what
who'd
happened.
unwittingly implicated herself in
The
receiving
abandonment,
stolen
the
property.
abuse.
That evening, Laura received
I
a
still
call from the
remember the
U.S.
look on her
Attorney's
face when
Office.
she told me what
Jessica
happened.
Winters has been offered immunity in exchange for
abandonment, the
full
abuse.
cooperation. She's flipping on
I
David.
still remember the
What
look
does
on
that
her
mean?
face when she
Sarah
told me
asked.
what happened.
It means she's going to testify about
abandonment,
everything
the
David told her.
abuse.
The plans to divorce you
I
once your
still
mother's
remember
money
the look
ran
on her
out.
face when
His
she told
statements
me
about
what happened.
Catherine. Everything.
The
Laura's
abandonment,
smile was
the
grim.
abuse.
She's going to be the prosecution's
I
rebuttal
still remember
witness.
the look on
The
her
last
face
thing
when
the
she
jury
told me
hears
what
before
happened.
deliberation. Sarah's phone
abandonment,
buzzed.
the abuse.
Another text from an unknown number. Traitor
still
whore.
remember the look on
You've
her
destroyed
face when she
everything.
told me what happened.
I hope you die slowly.
The
We'd
abandonment,
gotten
the
dozens of similar
abuse.
messages. The FBI was
I still
tracking them,
remember the look on
but they
her
came
face
from
when she
burner
told me what
phones,
happened.
untraceable. They're
The
getting desperate, I
abandonment,
said.
the abuse.
That's good. Desperate people make
I still
mistakes.
remember the look on her
But I
face
didn't
when she
believe
told
my
me
own
what
words.
happened.
Because desperate
The
people also
abandonment,
did
the
desperate things.
abuse.
And the Whitmores had already
I still
proven they were
remember the
willing to
look on her
kill careful to
face when
protect
she
their
told me what
secrets.
happened.
That night, I barely slept.
abandonment,
Every
the
sound was a
abuse.
potential threat, every shadow a
still
possible
remember the look on her
assassin.
face when she
Sarah
told me what
tossed and
happened.
turned, crying out in
The
nightmares.
abandonment, the
We'd come so
abuse.
far. Fought so hard.
I still remember the
But the
look on
battle
her
wasn't
face
over
when she
yet,
told me what happened.
and I had a terrible feeling the worst was still to come.
abandonment, the
Day
abuse.
6 began with chaos outside the
I still
courthouse.
remember the look on her face
A
when
crowd
she
of
told me what
protesters
happened.
had gathered overnight, some
The
holding signs
abandonment,
supporting
the
Sarah,
abuse.
believed survivors and justice for
I still
Catherine,
remember the look on
others
her
defending
face
the
when she told me
Whitmores,
what happened.
innocent until proven guilty, and
The
stop the witch
abandonment,
hunt.
the
Police in
abuse.
riot gear formed barriers
I
between the
still
groups.
remember the look on her face when
Inside,
she
the
told me
tension
what
was
happened.
suffocating.
The
David sat at the
abandonment,
defense
the
table looking
abuse.
gaunt and hollow-eyed.
I still remember
His
the look on
expensive
her
suit
face
hung
when she
loose on
told me
his
what
frame.
happened.
He'd lost at least
abandonment,
20
the
pounds since his
abuse.
arrest. But his eyes,
I still
when they
remember the
found
look on
Sarah
her
across
face
the
when she told
courtroom,
me what happened.
burned with pure
The
hatred.
abandonment,
Judge
the
Walsh called court to
abuse.
order. Mr. Brennan,
I still
does the
remember the
defense
look on
have
her
additional
face when she
witnesses?
told me what happened.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense
The
calls David
abandonment,
Whitmore to the
the
stand.
abuse.
A collective intake of breath.
I still remember
Laura
the look
leaned
on her
toward me
face
and
when she
whispered,
told me what happened.
"This is a mistake.
The abandonment,
Daniel's going
the
to destroy him on
abuse.
cross." David took the
I still
stand,
remember the
was
look on
sworn
her
in,
face when she
and
told me what
immediately
happened.
launched into his performance.
The abandonment, the
He painted
abuse.
himself as a devoted husband
I
who
still
tried
remember the look
everything
on
to
her
help
face
his
when she
mentally
told me
ill
what
wife.
happened.
He claimed every penny from my
abandonment,
transfers
the
had gone toward
abuse.
Sarah's care therapy,
I
medication,
still remember the
medical
look on her face when she
consultations.
told me what
"I
happened.
loved my wife," David said,
The
his voice
abandonment,
breaking
the
on cue.
abuse.
"I would have done anything to help her get better."
I still remember the look
But her
on
mother
face when
convinced
she
her I
told
was
me
the
what
enemy.
happened.
Margaret poisoned
The
Sarah's
abandonment,
mind
the
against me.
abuse.
Brennan walked him through a timeline
I still
designed to make
remember the
Sarah
look on
look
her face
unstable
when she told me
and me
what
look
happened.
controlling.
The abandonment,
David's testimony
the
was smooth,
abuse.
practiced, believable
I still
if you
remember
didn't
the
know he
look
was
on her
lying.
face when she told me
Then
what
came
happened.
Daniel's cross-examination.
The abandonment,
Mr. Whitmore,
the
you
abuse.
testified that all of Margaret Chen's
I
money
still
went toward
remember the
Sarah's
look on her
care.
face
Is that
when she
correct?
told me what happened.
Yes. Then perhaps
The
you can explain
abandonment,
this.
the abuse.
Daniel pulled up a document on the screen.
I still remember
Bank
the
statement
look
from
on
your
her face
personal
when she
account
told
showing
me
a
what happened.
$3,500 monthly payment
The
to Cascade
abandonment,
Apartments.
the abuse.
That's where Jessica Winters lives, isn't
I
it?
still remember
David's
the look on
composure
her face when
cracked
she told
slightly.
me what happened.
That's
The
a
abandonment,
business
the
expense.
abuse.
Miss Winters doesn't work for you.
I still remember the
How
look
is her
on
apartment a
face when she
business
told me what
expense?
happened.
She's a colleague. I
The
was helping her out.
abandonment, the abuse.
With stolen money? Daniel's voice was sharp.
still remember
Let's
the
look
look
at
on her
another
face when
expense.
she told me
July
what
10th,
happened.
2024.
The abandonment,
$42,000 to
the
Mile High
abuse.
BMW for a vehicle purchased in
still
Jessica
remember the
Winters'
look on her
name.
face when she
Was that
told me
also a
what
business
happened.
expense? I don't
The
recall the
abandonment,
specifics.
the abuse.
You don't recall buying your mistress a car with money you
still
told
remember the
Margaret
look on
Chen
her
was needed
face
for
when she
Sarah's
told me
medical
what
care?
happened.
Daniel's
The
voice rose.
abandonment, the abuse.
Let me refresh your memory. He
I
pulled
still
up a
remember
text
the look on
exchange
her
between
face
David
when
and
she
me,
told me what
dated
happened.
July 8th,
The
2024.
abandonment, the
David's
abuse.
text. Margaret, I hate to
I still
ask
remember
again,
the look on her
but Sarah
face when
needs
she
to see a
told me what
specialist in
happened.
California who might be able
The
to help with the
abandonment,
fertility
the
issues.
abuse.
The consultation and initial treatments
I still
are
remember the look on her face
$45,000.
when she told me what
I know it's a
happened.
lot, but this could be our last
The
chance to have a
abandonment,
baby.
the abuse.
My response, of course.
I still remember
Anything
the look
for
on
Sarah.
her face when she
I'll
told me
wire
what
it
happened.
tomorrow. David's text.
abandonment,
You're a
the
godsend.
abuse.
Sarah will be so grateful.
I
Did
still
Sarah
remember
see
the
that
look on her
specialist,
face when she
Mr.
told me
Whitmore?
what happened.
There were
The abandonment,
complications.
the abuse.
Did she or didn't she?
I
No,
still
but
remember the look on her
instead,
face
2
when
days
she
after
told me what
receiving that
happened.
$45,000,
The
you bought
abandonment,
Jessica
the
Winters a
abuse.
BMW. Daniel let
I
that
still
sink
remember
in.
the look on her
You
face
lied
when
to
she
Margaret
told me
about
what
medical
happened.
treatment for her daughter and
The
used the money to buy a
abandonment,
car
the
for your pregnant
abuse.
mistress. The jury looked
I still
horrified.
remember the look on
Several
her
were
face when
openly
she told me
glaring
what
at David.
happened.
Daniel continued
The
methodically
abandonment, the
dismantling every
abuse.
lie. He showed trip receipts
I still
David and
remember the look
Jessica
on
in
her face
Aspen
when she told
while
me
he
what
told me he
happened.
was at a legal conference.
The abandonment,
Credit card
the
statements for
abuse.
expensive dinners, jewelry,
I still
a
remember
weekend
the
at the
look on her
Broadmoor
face
Resort.
when she told me what
All of
happened.
this was funded by Margaret
The
Chen's
abandonment,
transfers,
the
wasn't it?
abuse.
Some of it, but I have my own
I still
income.
remember the look
Your
on her
income
face
from
when
the
she
law
told me
firm
what
averages
happened.
$300,000 annually,
The abandonment,
correct?
the abuse.
Yes. And yet you also have substantial
I still
gambling
remember the
debts,
look on her
don't
face
you?
when she told me
Daniel
what
pulled up
happened.
more records.
The
$78,000
abandonment,
owed to the
abuse.
Ameristar Casino,
I
$42,000
still remember the
to
look
an
on her
online
face when
gambling
she told me
site,
what happened.
$35,000 in cash,
The
advances from
abandonment,
credit
the
cards.
abuse.
You're not wealthy, Mr.
I still
Whitmore.
remember the look on
You're
her
deeply
face
in
when
debt
she
and
told me
using
what
other
happened.
people's money to maintain an illusion of
abandonment,
success.
the abuse.
David's face flushed red. That's not
I
when
still
debts are being
remember the look
managed
on her face when
with
she told
stolen
me what
money.
happened.
Let's talk about Catherine
The
Brennan.
abandonment,
Objection.
The abuse.
Brennan shot to his feet. Catherine
still
Brennan
remember
is
the
not
look
on
on her
trial
face
here.
when she told me
Your
what
client
happened.
opened the door by testifying about his
abandonment,
character.
the
Your Honor,
abuse.
Daniel countered. Judge
still
Walsh
remember the
nodded.
look on her face when
Overruled.
she told me what
Proceed.
happened.
Mr. Whitmore,
The
you were
abandonment,
married to
the
Catherine Brennan
abuse.
from 2020 to
I
2022,
still remember
correct?
the look on her face
Yes.
when she told me what happened.
David's voice was tight.
The
And during that
abandonment, the
marriage,
abuse.
you defrauded her family of approximately
I
$1
still
million
remember the look on her
using
face when
methods
she told me
identical
what
to those you
happened.
used on Sarah Chen Whitmore
The
and her mother.
abandonment, the
That's not true.
abuse.
Catherine had mental health issues.
still remember
Her
the look on
family
her
blamed
face
me
when
for.
she told me what
Catherine's
happened.
therapist has provided sealed records to this
abandonment,
court
the
showing Catherine had
abuse.
no history of mental illness before
I still
meeting
remember
you.
the look on her
Her
face when
issues
she told
began
me what
after you
happened.
isolated her from friends and
The
family,
abandonment, the
controlled her
abuse.
finances, and threatened her with
I still remember the
institutionalization.
look on her face
Daniel's
when she
voice
told
was
me what
steel,
happened.
just like you did to Sarah.
The abandonment,
I
the
never.
abuse.
Did you threaten to have Sarah involuntarily
I still
committed?
remember the look on her
I
face when
suggested
she
she might
told me what
benefit from
happened.
intensive treatment.
The
That's not what I
abandonment,
asked.
the abuse.
Did you threaten her with involuntary
I
commitment?
still remember the look
David's
on her
jaw
face when she
clenched.
told me what
Sometimes
happened.
people need to be protected
The
from themselves.
abandonment, the abuse.
Is that what happened to Catherine? Were you protecting
I still
her when
remember
she
the
died
look
of a
on her
drug
face when
overdose?
she told me what
Catherine
happened.
committed suicide.
The
I had nothing to do
abandonment,
with.
the abuse.
Then why did you take out a $500,000
remember
life
the look on
insurance
her
policy
face
on
when
her
she
6
told me
weeks
what
before her
happened.
death? The courtroom
The
exploded.
abandonment, the
Reporters
abuse.
scrambled for phones.
I
The
still
jury
remember
looked
the look on
shocked.
her face when
Even
she told
Judge
me what
Walsh's
happened.
eyebrows shot up.
The abandonment, the abuse.
That was normal financial planning.
I
6
still
weeks
remember the
before her
look on her
death,
face when she
Mr.
told me
Whitmore,
what happened.
after she'd told friends she
The
was planning to
abandonment,
divorce
the
you,
abuse.
after she'd consulted with a lawyer
I
about
still
pursuing
remember the
criminal
look on her
charges
face
for
when she
fraud.
told me what happened.
Very convenient timing, wouldn't you say?
abandonment, the
David's lawyer
abuse.
was on his feet, objecting frantically,
remember the
but the
look on her
damage was
face when
done.
she told me
The
what
jury had
happened.
seen David's mask slip.
The abandonment,
They'd seen the
the
calculation,
abuse.
the cold manipulation
I
beneath the
still remember
grief-stricken
the look on her
husband
face
act.
when she told me what
Daniel
happened.
produced one final piece of
The
evidence,
abandonment,
text
the
messages between
abuse.
David and Jessica from November
I still remember
2025,
the look on her
recovered
face when
from
she told me
Jessica's
what
phone.
happened.
David,
The
Sarah's mother
abandonment,
is
the
running out of money.
abuse.
Might be time to cut losses and
I
move
still
on.
remember the look
Jessica,
on her face when she told
what
me
about
what
Sarah?
happened.
What if she makes
The
trouble?
abandonment, the
David,
abuse.
she won't. Nobody
I
believes
still
crazy
remember the
women,
look on her
and if she
face when she
tries,
told
there
me
are
what
ways to handle
happened.
problems permanently.
The
Worked
abandonment,
before.
the abuse.
Jessica, that's scary.
I
You're
still
scary
remember the look on her
sometimes.
face when she told me
David,
what happened.
only to people who cross
The
me.
abandonment,
The messages
the
were dated
abuse.
3 weeks before Christmas Eve.
I still
3
remember
weeks
the look
before
on her
David had
face when
pushed
she told
Sarah
me what
onto that
happened.
frozen porch.
The
What did you mean by
abandonment,
worked
the
before,
abuse.
Mr. Whitmore? Daniel asked
I
softly.
still remember the look
I
on her
don't.
face when she
I
told
don't
me
remember
what
writing that.
happened.
I was probably
The
joking.
abandonment, the
Were you joking when you
abuse.
pushed your wife outside in negative
I
5-degree
still
weather?
remember the look on her face when
When
she
you
told me
threatened to
what
have her
happened.
committed?
The
When you told her
abandonment,
nobody
the
would believe her?
abuse.
Daniel's
I
voice
still
rose.
remember the look on
Were
her
you
face
joking when
she told
Catherine
me what
Brennan
happened.
ended up dead after threatening to
The
expose you?
abandonment, the
I didn't kill
abuse.
Catherine, David shouted,
I still
losing
remember
control
the look on her
completely.
face when she told
She
me
was
what
weak.
happened.
She couldn't handle the
The
consequences of her
abandonment,
own
the
stupid
abuse.
choices. The courtroom went silent.
still remember the
David
look on her
seemed to
face when
realize
she
what he'd
told me what
said,
happened.
his face going pale.
The
No
abandonment,
further
the
questions,
abuse.
Daniel said quietly. Brennan
I
tried
still remember the
redirect,
look on her
tried to
face when she
rehabilitate
told
his
me what
client's
happened.
testimony, but it was
The
hopeless.
abandonment,
David
the
had imploded on the
abuse.
stand, revealing exactly
I
the
still
kind of
remember
man
the
he
look
was:
on her
cruel,
face when she told me
manipulative,
what
devoid of
happened.
empathy. The defense
The
rested.
abandonment, the abuse.
Judge Walsh called a brief recess before
I
closing
still remember
arguments.
the look on her face
In the
when she told
hallway,
me what
Sarah
happened.
gripped my hand so tightly it
The
hurt.
abandonment,
Did
the
you hear him?
abuse.
He admitted it. He as good as
I
admitted
still
killing
remember
Catherine.
the look on her face
I heard,
when
I
she
said.
told me what happened.
The jury heard.
The abandonment,
It's over,
the
baby.
abuse.
You won. But Laura's
I still
expression was
remember the
troubled.
look on her face when
We
she
haven't
told me
won
what
yet.
happened.
Jury deliberations
The
are
abandonment,
unpredictable,
the
and David's
abuse.
family still has resources,
I
connections.
still remember the look on her
Don't
face when
celebrate
she
until we
told
have
me
a
what
verdict.
happened.
The afternoon was
The
devoted to closing
abandonment,
arguments.
the abuse.
Daniel methodically walked through the
I still
evidence,
remember
the
the
video
look on her
footage, the
face when she
financial
told me what
records,
happened.
the testimony from multiple
The
victims,
abandonment, the
David's own
abuse.
damning words on the stand.
I still
Ladies and
remember the
gentlemen,
look on her
this
face when
case
she
is
told
about
me what
power
happened.
and its abuse.
The
About a man who
abandonment, the
believed his wealth,
abuse.
his family name, and his
I still
connections
remember
made
the
him
look on her
untouchable.
face when she told me
About a
what
family
happened.
that spent decades preying
The
on vulnerable
abandonment,
women
the
and facing no
abuse.
consequences. Daniel
I still remember
paused,
the look
looking
on
at
her
each
face
juror.
when she told me what happened.
Until now. Until Sarah Chen Whitmore
abandonment,
found
the
the courage to say
abuse.
enough. to stand up and demand justice not just for herself, but for Catherine Brennan, for Jennifer Walsh, for every woman the Whitmores destroyed. He pointed at David. That man is not a victim. He's a predator. And your verdict will determine whether predators like him continue to operate with impunity or whether we finally hold them accountable. Brennan's closing was desperate, grasping at straws. He tried to cast doubt on the evidence, suggested the FBI had fabricated records, claimed Sarah was a scorned woman seeking revenge. But his arguments rang hollow after David's testimony. The jury's faces showed they'd made up their minds. Judge Walsh gave instructions. The jury filed out at 4:47 p.m. Now came the hardest part: waiting. Laura took us to a private room. Deliberations could take hours or days. Try to rest. But rest was impossible. Sarah paced like a caged animal. I checked my phone obsessively. Every minute felt like an hour. At 6:15 p.m., Laura's phone rang. She listened, her face unreadable, then hung up. The jury has a verdict. My stomach dropped. Already? Is that good or bad? Fast verdicts usually favor the prosecution, but we won't know until we hear it. Laura stood. Let's go. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled, standing room only. David was brought in, his face ashen. The Whitmore family sat in their usual spots, Patricia clutching Robert's hand, both looking decades older than their years. The jury filed in. None of them looked at David, a good sign, Laura whispered. Judge Walsh addressed the four women. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. What say you? The four women stood, holding a piece of paper. Sarah's hand found mine, gripping so hard I felt bones grind. On the count of wire fraud, we find the defendant guilty. Sarah gasped. I felt tears spring to my eyes. On the count of conspiracy to commit fraud, we find the defendant guilty. Patricia sobbed loudly. Robert sat stone-faced. On the count of elder financial abuse, we find the defendant guilty. David's head dropped to the table. The four women continued through all 17 counts. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Every single charge. When it was over, Judge Walsh thanked the jury and set sentencing for 6 weeks out. David was led away in handcuffs, and as he passed our table, he stopped. This isn't over, he hissed at Sarah. My family has resources you can't imagine. Appeals, connections. You haven't won. Actually, Sarah said calmly, looking him in the eye for the first time with no fear, I have. Because even if you somehow overturn this conviction, everyone knows what you are now. Your reputation is destroyed. Your career is over. And I'm free of you forever. David's face twisted with rage, but the marshals pulled him away before he could respond. In the hallway, reporters swarmed us. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. But all I could focus on was my daughter, standing tall, shoulders back, tears streaming down her face. We did it, Mom, she whispered. We actually did it. You did it, I corrected. You were brave enough to fight back. And as we left the courthouse that evening, walking through crowds of supporters chanting Sarah's name, I finally believed we might actually be safe. The monster was caged. Justice, for once, had prevailed. The guilty verdict should have brought peace. Instead, it brought a strange, hollow feeling, like the eye of a hurricane calm on the surface, but with chaos still swirling at the edges. Sarah and I returned to the hotel that night, exhausted beyond measure. The security detail remained outside our door. The threats hadn't stopped just because David was convicted. If anything, they'd intensified. You ruined a good man, one message read. The Whitmores will make sure you pay. Another, guilty verdict doesn't mean anything. Appeals will overturn it. You'll see. Laura had warned us this would happen. Convictions don't end abuse cases, they just change the battlefield. Now we fight appeals, sentencing hearings, restitution claims. It's going to be a long road. But Sarah seemed lighter somehow. The tension she'd carried for years in her shoulders, her jaw, the permanent crease between her eyebrows had eased. She looked younger, more like the girl in those old photos from before David. I need to do something, she said that night as we picked at room service neither of us really wanted. The trial is over, but I can't just stop. I need purpose, direction. Something.
I still
What are you
remember the
thinking?
look on her face
I
when
want to
she
help
told
other
me what
women,
happened.
the ones still trapped,
The
the ones who don't have
abandonment,
mothers who can hire
abuse.
private investigators and elite
I
lawyers.
still remember the look
I
on
want
her
to use
face
what
when she
happened to
told
me
me
to
what
make sure it
happened.
doesn't keep happening to others.
The abandonment,
Pride
the
swelled in my
abuse.
chest. That sounds exactly
I
like
still
something
remember
you
the
should
look on
do.
her face when she
Will you
told
help
me what
me?
happened.
Start a foundation or
The
nonprofit or
abandonment,
something?
the abuse.
I don't know how to do it alone. Of course I'll
I still
help.
remember the
We'll
look on
figure
her
it out
face when she
together.
told me what
The next
happened.
morning brought an unexpected
The
visitor.
abandonment,
Detective
the
Moreno
abuse.
called at 7 a.m.
I
Margaret,
still
Sarah,
remember the
I need
look
you
on
to
her
come to the
face when she
precinct.
told me what happened.
Now, there's someone here
The
who needs to talk to
abandonment,
you.
the
Is something
abuse.
wrong? Panic spiked through
I
me.
still remember
Are we
the
in
look on
danger?
her face when she
No,
told me
nothing
what
like
happened.
that. Just, please
The
come.
abandonment,
It's
the
important.
abuse.
We arrived at the precinct by
I
8,
still remember the
our
look on her
security
face when
detail
she
in
told me
tow.
what happened.
Detective Moreno met us at the
The
entrance,
abandonment,
her
the
expression
abuse.
unreadable. Who wants to see us?
I still
Sarah
remember the
asked.
look on her face
You'll
when she
understand
told
when
me
you
what
meet him.
happened.
She led us
The
through the station to a
abandonment, the
conference room.
abuse.
He showed up at 6 this morning,
I still
refused to
remember the
leave
look
until
on
he
her
could talk
face
to
when
you.
she told me what
She
happened.
opened the door. Inside sat a man
abandonment,
I'd
the
never seen
abuse.
before, late 30s, athletic build,
I
with
still
dark hair
remember the
and
look on
eyes
her
that looked
face when she
haunted.
told me what
He wore
happened.
casual clothes but sat with
The
military
abandonment,
bearing.
the abuse.
When he saw Sarah, he stood abruptly.
I still
Sarah,
remember the look on her
thank you
face
for
when she
seeing me.
told me what happened.
I know you don't know me, but
The
he took a breath.
abandonment, the abuse.
My name is Marcus Sullivan. I'm a detective
still
with Denver
remember the look on
PD,
her face
and I've
when
been
she
in love
told
with
me
you
what
for 10
happened.
years. The room went
The
silent.
abandonment, the
Sarah stared at him,
abuse.
confusion written across her
I
face.
still remember the
I
look on
don't.
her face when
I
she
don't
told me
understand.
what happened.
10 years?
The
I don't even know you.
abandonment, the
We met
abuse.
once, briefly. You probably
I still
don't
remember the
remember.
look on her face when
Marcus's
she
voice
told me
was
what
rough with
happened.
emotion. It was 2015.
abandonment, the
You were
abuse.
teaching at Mountain View Elementary. I was
still
responding
remember the
to a
look on her
break-in at the
face when
school.
she
Someone
told
had
me what
vandalized
happened.
the gym. You were
The
there late,
abandonment, the
preparing your
abuse.
classroom for the next day. We
I
talked for
still
maybe
remember
20
the look on
minutes
her
while I
face
took your
when she told
statement.
me what happened.
Sarah shook her head.
The abandonment,
I don't remember.
the abuse.
I know. Why would you? I was
still
just
remember
another
the look
cop
on her
doing
face when
paperwork.
she told me what
But you.
happened.
Marcus's voice
The
cracked.
abandonment, the
You talked about your
abuse.
students like they were your own children.
I still remember the
You
look
showed
on
me
her
their
face
artwork
when
on the
she told me
walls,
what
their
happened.
progress charts. Told
The
me about this one
abandonment,
kid
the
who'd been struggling with
abuse.
reading and how excited you were
I
that he'd
still
finally
remember
had a
the look on her
breakthrough.
face when she
You
told me
glowed
what
when you
happened.
talked about teaching.
The
You were the most
abandonment, the
genuinely kind
abuse.
person I'd ever met. Marcus,
I still remember
Detective
the look on
Moreno
her
said
face when
gently,
she told me what
maybe get to
happened.
why you're here?
The
He nodded,
abandonment,
swallowing
the
hard.
abuse.
After that night, I couldn't
I
stop
still
thinking
remember
about
the
you.
look on her face
I
when she
looked you
told
up
me
on
what
social
happened.
media, not in a creepy way,
The
just
abandonment, the
I wanted to know if you were
abuse.
single, if there was a chance.
I still remember
but you
the
just
look on
started
her
dating
face when she
someone,
told me what
David
happened.
Whitmore. He seemed successful,
abandonment, the
educated,
abuse.
perfect for you. I
I
figured
still
I'd missed
remember
my
the look on her
chance.
face when she told
Sarah
me
sat
what
down
happened.
slowly, like her
The
legs wouldn't hold her
abandonment,
anymore.
the abuse.
I remained standing,
I still
protective.
remember the look on
I
her
watched
face
from a
when she told
distance,
me what
Marcus
happened.
continued.
The
Saw you get
abandonment,
engaged.
the abuse.
Get married.
I still remember
Told
the look
myself
on her
to move
face when
on.
she told me what happened.
But I couldn't.
The
Then one day I
abandonment,
saw you
the
at the grocery
abuse.
store. This was maybe a year into
I
your
still
marriage.
remember the look on
You
her
looked
face
different,
when she told me
thinner,
what happened.
sadder. There was a
The
bruise on your arm.
abandonment, the abuse.
When you saw me, you smiled, but it didn't reach your
I
eyes.
still remember the look
I
on her
asked if you
face
were
when she
okay.
told me what
You
happened.
said you were fine, just
The
clumsy.
abandonment,
His
the
hands
abuse.
clenched into fists. I knew you
I
were
still
lying.
remember the look on her
I'm a
face when she
detective.
told me what happened.
I recognize abuse victims.
The abandonment,
But
the
what could I do?
abuse.
You were married.
I
I
still
had no
remember the
evidence,
look on her face when
no
she
right
told
to
me what
interfere.
happened.
So I did nothing.
The abandonment,
And I've hated
the
myself for that
abuse.
ever since. Tears were
I still
streaming down
remember the look
Marcus's
on her
face now.
when she told me
When I
what
saw the
happened.
press conference, saw
The
what David did to you,
abandonment, the
saw you
abuse.
on that porch freezing.
I
His
still
voice
remember
broke
the look on her
ago. I should have
The
done something,
abandonment, the
anything.
abuse.
Instead, I let my feelings for
I
you
still
cloud my
remember the look on
judgment.
her face
Told
when she
myself
told
you'd
me
ask
what
for help
happened.
if you needed it. But
The
abuse victims
abandonment,
don't
the
ask.
abuse.
They can't. And I failed you.
I still remember
Sarah
the
was
look
crying
on her face
too.
when she told me
You
what
didn't
happened.
fail me. You didn't even
The
know me.
abandonment, the
But I loved you.
abuse.
I've loved you for 10
I
years.
still remember the look
And the
on her
woman I
face
loved
when
was
she
being
told me what
destroyed.
happened.
And I stood by and
The
did nothing because I
abandonment,
was
the
too afraid of
abuse.
overstepping, of being wrong,
I still
of
remember
making
the
things
look on her
worse.
face when she told
Marcus
me what
looked at
happened.
Detective Moreno.
The
I'm here to
abandonment,
formally
the
request that I be
abuse.
investigated for dereliction of duty.
I still remember
I
the
saw
look on
signs
her
of
face
abuse
when
and
she
failed to
told me what
report or
happened.
investigate them. I
The
violated violated my
abandonment,
oath as
the
an officer.
abuse.
Detective Moreno sighed.
I still remember the
Marcus,
look on her
you didn't
face
have
when she
cause
told
to
me what
investigate.
happened.
A bruise and sad
The
eyes aren't probable
abandonment,
cause.
the abuse.
If this part touched something deep inside
I
you,
still remember
hit
the
that
look on
like
her
button
face
so I
when
know
she
it
told
reached
me
you.
what happened.
Do you see your own reflection in this character's journey?
Abuse.
Tell me in the comments your story might just
I still
inspire
remember
someone
the look
else.
on her face when
They
she
should
told
have
me
been
what
enough.
happened.
I should have trusted my
abandonment,
instincts.
the
He turned back
abuse.
to Sarah. I'm so
I still
sorry.
remember the look
I'm
on her
so
face when
profoundly
she told me
sorry.
what happened.
You suffered for years because
The
I was a
abandonment,
coward,
the
because I
abuse.
prioritized protocol over protecting
I still
someone I
remember
cared
the look
about.
on her face
Sarah
when she told me
stood,
what happened.
walked slowly toward Marcus.
The abandonment,
He looked
the
terrified,
abuse.
like he expected her to hit him or scream
I
at
still
him.
remember the look
Instead,
on her face when
she
she
took
told
his
me what
hands.
happened.
You said you've loved
The
me for 10
abandonment,
years?
the abuse.
Yes. His voice was
I still
barely a
remember
whisper.
the look on her face
Then you
when she
need to
told me what
understand
happened.
something. You are not
The
responsible for what
abandonment,
David
the
did to me.
abuse.
Only David is
I
responsible.
still remember the look on her face
Only
when
David
she told
and
me
his
what
family.
happened.
Sarah's voice
The
was firm.
abandonment, the
If you tried to
abuse.
save me back then, I probably would
I
have
still
defended
remember the
him.
look on her
That's what
face when
abuse
she told
victims
me what
do.
happened.
We protect our
The
abusers
abandonment, the
until we're strong enough to
abuse.
leave. You couldn't have changed
I
that
still remember the
timeline,
look on her face
but I
when
could
she
have
told me what
documented.
happened.
You could have made things
The
worse.
abandonment, the
If David knew a cop was
abuse.
watching, he would have been more
I
careful,
still remember the
more
look on her
controlling.
face when she
He
told
might
me
have
what
isolated me completely.
The
Sarah squeezed his
abandonment,
hands.
the abuse.
You didn't fail me, Marcus. You're
I
here
still
now.
remember the look on
That's
her
what
face when
matters.
she told me what
Marcus
happened.
looked at her with such raw
The
longing it hurt to
abandonment,
witness.
the abuse.
I followed the trial every day.
I still remember
Sat in the
look
back
on
where
her
you couldn't
face
see
when she
me.
told me what happened.
Listened to your testimony.
The
Wanted to kill
abandonment, the
David with my bare
abuse.
hands for what he did to you.
I
He
still
took a
remember
shaky
the
breath.
look on her face
I
when
know
she
the
told me
timing
what
is
happened.
terrible. I know you're healing, and the
abandonment,
last
the
thing you need is some guy
abuse.
declaring feelings.
I still
But I couldn't
remember the
stay
look on her
silent
face
anymore.
when she told
I
me what
needed you to
happened.
know that someone saw you,
The
really
abandonment,
saw
the
you, and thought you were
abuse.
extraordinary. Before David,
I still remember the look
before
on her
all of
face
this,
when she told me what
you were
happened.
already perfect exactly as
The
you were.
abandonment, the
Sarah was full on
abuse.
sobbing now. I moved to
I
her
still
side,
remember the
put my
look on
arm
her
around her
face when she
shoulders.
told me what
I don't know
happened.
what to say,
The
Sarah whispered.
abandonment, the abuse.
You don't have to say anything. I just needed you
I
to
still
know.
remember the look
Needed
on
to
her face when
apologize
she
for not
told me
being
what
braver.
happened.
Marcus stepped
The
back.
abandonment,
I'll go
the
now.
abuse.
I'm sorry for ambushing you like this.
I still remember
I
the
just...
look on her face when she
Wait.
told me what happened.
Sarah's voice stopped him at the door.
The abandonment,
You said
the
you saw me.
abuse.
Really saw me.
I still remember the
Before
look on her
David
face
corrupted
when
everything.
She told me what happened.
I did. I do.
The
Then help me
abandonment,
see
the
her too,
abuse.
because I've forgotten who I was
I
before
still
him.
remember the look on
I
her
look in the
face when
mirror
she
and I
told me
only
what
see what he
happened.
made me broken,
The
damaged,
abandonment,
worthless.
the abuse.
Help me remember who I was at Mountain View Elementary.
I still remember the
The
look on
teacher
her
who loved
face
her
when she told
students.
me what
The
happened.
woman who glowed when she talked about
The
reading
abandonment,
breakthroughs.
the abuse.
Marcus turned back slowly. She's
I
still
still
there.
remember the look on her
She never
face when
left.
she told me what
She just got
happened.
buried under 3 years of
The
cruelty.
abandonment, the abuse.
But Sarah, his voice was
I still
fierce
remember
now.
the look on her face when
You're
she
not
told
broken.
me what happened.
You survived something
The
that would have destroyed
abandonment,
most
the
people.
abuse.
You stood up in court and told your
I
truth,
still remember
knowing
the
it would
look on
make
her
you
face when
vulnerable.
she told me
You're the
what
strongest
happened.
person I've ever known.
The
I don't
abandonment,
feel
the
strong.
abuse.
Strong people rarely do.
I
They
still
just keep
remember
going
the look on
anyway.
her face when she
Detective
told me what
Moreno
happened.
cleared her throat.
The
Marcus,
abandonment,
you're off
the
duty.
abuse.
Maybe you should go home and get some
I
rest.
still remember the
He
look on
nodded
her
but
face
didn't
when she
move.
told me what
Just kept
happened.
looking at Sarah like she was something precious and
abandonment, the
fragile he was afraid to
abuse.
break. Can I see you
I
again?
still remember the
He
look
finally
on her face
asked.
when she told me what happened.
Not romantically.
The
I understand
abandonment,
that's
the
not.
abuse.
I know you need time,
I still remember
years
the
probably.
look on her face when she told
maybe
me
forever.
what happened.
But as friends,
The abandonment,
can I be
the
someone in your
abuse.
corner who's there because I want to be,
I still remember
not
the
because
look on
I'm
her
paid to
face when
be
she
or
told me
related
what
to you?
happened.
Sarah looked at me.
The abandonment,
I
the
nodded, giving permission I
abuse.
had no right to give, but
I
she
still
needed it
remember the
anyway.
look on her face
Yes,
when she told me
Sarah
what
said.
happened.
I'd like that. Marcus's whole
abandonment,
face
the
transformed.
abuse.
The haunted look lifted slightly.
I still remember
Thank
the
you.
look on her
That's
face when she
thank
told
you.
me what happened.
After he left, Sarah collapsed into a
abandonment,
chair.
the abuse.
That was the most surreal thing I've ever
I still remember
experienced.
the look on her
And I've
face when she
experienced a
told me
lot
what
of surreal
happened.
things lately.
The
He seems
abandonment, the
genuine, I said
abuse.
carefully. He does,
I still
which
remember the
almost
look on
makes
her
it worse,
face when she told me
because
what
I don't know how to
happened.
process genuine
The
anymore.
abandonment, the
David seemed
abuse.
genuine too at first.
I still
How do I
remember the
trust
look
my
on her
judgment
face
about
when she
men
told
when
me
my
what
judgment was
happened.
so catastrophically wrong
The
before?
abandonment, the
Detective
abuse.
Moreno sat across from us.
I
For what
still
it's
remember the
worth,
look on her
Marcus
face
Sullivan
when
is
she
one of the
told me
good
what
ones.
happened.
Best detective in the
The
department.
abandonment, the
Solved 3 3 cold
abuse.
case murders last year.
I
He's
still
also been in
remember the look
therapy
on her
since his
face
partner
when she
was
told
killed
me
in the
what
line of
happened.
duty 5 years ago.
The
He doesn't
abandonment,
hide from his
the
emotions or his
abuse.
mistakes. He confronts
I
them.
still remember the
He's
look
been
on her
carrying
face
guilt
when
about
she
me for
told me what
years,
happened.
Sarah said quietly.
The
That's not
abandonment,
healthy.
the abuse.
No, Moreno agreed.
I
But
still
the fact
remember
that
the
he
look on
came
her
here,
face when she
confessed
told me
it,
what happened.
asked to be held accountable, that
The
shows
abandonment,
character.
the abuse.
Most men would have kept quiet, taken
I
that
still
secret
remember
to the
look on
grave.
her face when she
Sarah
told me
pulled
what
out her
happened.
phone, stared at the
The
screen.
abandonment, the abuse.
I have 743 unread
I still remember
messages.
the look on her face
Most
when
are
she told me
supportive,
what happened.
some are death threats.
The abandonment.
I don't know how to move
abuse.
forward from this. How to
I
rebuild a
still
life when
remember
the
the
old
look
one
on
is
her face
ashes.
when she told me what
One day at
happened.
a time, I said.
The
One
abandonment,
choice at a
the
time.
abuse.
You wanted to start a foundation?
I still
Let's start
remember the
there.
look on her face
Give you
when she told
purpose
me
while
what
you
happened.
heal. And Marcus?
The abandonment,
Sarah
the
asked.
abuse.
What do I do about him?
I still
Nothing
remember
right
the
now.
look on her face
Let him be
when
a
she
friend
told
if he
me
can
what
handle
happened.
that. See where it goes.
The abandonment,
You don't owe
the
anyone romance or
abuse.
love or happily ever after.
I still
You owe
remember
yourself
the look on
healing
her
and
face
peace
when
and
she told
time.
me what happened.
Sarah nodded slowly.
The abandonment,
Time.
the abuse.
I can do time. But even as she said
still
it, I
remember
saw
the
the
look
way
on
she
her
glanced
face
at the
when she
door
told
where
me what
Marcus had
happened.
left. Saw the tiny spark of something in her eyes.
abuse.
Not love, not yet, but
I still
possibility.
remember the look on her
And
face
maybe,
when she
I
told
thought,
me what happened.
possibility was enough to start
The
rebuilding on.
abandonment, the abuse.
Sentencing day arrived 6 weeks after the
I still
guilty
remember
verdict,
the look on
on a
her
gray
face when
March
she told
morning
me
that
what
matched the
happened.
somber mood. The
The
courthouse was
abandonment,
even
the
more packed than during
abuse.
trial victims,
I
supporters,
still remember the
media,
look on her
and
face when
curious
she told me
onlookers
what
filling
happened.
every available space.
The abandonment,
David was brought
the
in wearing prison
abuse.
orange, his transformation
I still
shocking.
remember the
He'd
look on
lost
her
more
face
weight,
when she
his
told me
face
what
gaunt and
happened.
pale from weeks without
The
sunlight.
abandonment,
But
the
his eyes, those
abuse.
cold, calculating eyes, still
I
burned
still
with
remember the
rage
look on
when
her
they found
face when she
Sarah.
told me what
Patricia
happened.
and Robert sat in the front row
The
of the gallery,
abandonment, the
both looking like
abuse.
shells of their former selves.
I still
Patricia's
remember the look on
designer
her
clothes
face when
hung
she
loose
told
on
me
her
what
frame.
happened.
Robert's hands
The
shook
abandonment,
constantly.
the abuse.
Edmund wasn't present. His own trial was
I still
scheduled for
remember
next
the
month.
look on her face when
Judge
she
Walsh
told me
took
what
her seat.
happened.
We're here for sentencing in United
abandonment,
States
the
versus David
abuse.
James Whitmore. Before I
I still
impose
remember the
sentence,
look on her
I'll hear
face
from
when she
victims
told
who
me
wish
what
to make
happened.
impact statements.
The
Miss Kim?
abandonment, the abuse.
Laura stood. Your Honor, we have
I
7
still remember
victims
the
who
look
wish
on
to
her
speak.
face when she told
Sarah
me what
was
happened.
first. She walked to the podium
The
with steady
abandonment,
steps,
the
her short hair
abuse.
framing her face, her navy
I
dress
still
simple
remember
and
the look on her
dignified.
face when she
She'd
told me what
practiced this
happened.
statement for weeks,
The
writing and
abandonment,
rewriting
the
until
abuse.
every word was perfect.
I still
Your
remember
Honor,
the look on her
3
face
years
when she
ago
told
I
me
married a
what
man
happened.
I thought loved me.
The abandonment,
Instead, I
the
married a
abuse.
predator who saw me as prey.
I still
Sarah's
remember
voice
the
was
look on her
clear,
face when she
strong.
told me what happened.
David Whitmore didn't just steal money
The
from my mother,
abandonment, the
he stole years of
abuse.
my life. He stole my confidence,
remember the
my
look on her
career,
face
my
when she
sense of
told me what
self.
happened.
He isolated me from friends and family.
abandonment, the abuse.
He convinced me I was worthless, defective,
I still remember the
broken
look on
beyond
her face
repair.
when she told me
She
what
turned to
happened.
look directly at David.
The abandonment, the
He made me
abuse.
believe that 4 miscarriages were my fault.
I still remember
That
the
my
look
grief
on her
was
face when
weakness,
she told me
that
what
asking for
happened.
help was manipulation.
The abandonment,
And when I
the
finally
abuse.
gathered the courage to survive rather than
I
thrive,
still remember
he
the
left
look
me
on her
outside
face
to
when she
freeze
told
to
me what
death,
happened.
hoping nature would solve his
The
problem for
abandonment,
him.
the abuse.
David stared back, his expression blank.
I still remember
But I
the
didn't
look on her
die.
face when she
I
told me
survived.
what happened.
And now David Whitmore will spend
abandonment,
decades in
the
prison knowing that the
abuse.
woman he tried to destroy is the
I still
reason he
remember
lost
the look on her
everything.
face when she told
His
me what
freedom,
happened.
his reputation,
The
his future.
abandonment, the abuse.
Sarah's voice grew stronger. I'm
I still
rebuilding my
remember the
life.
look on her face
I'm
when
helping
she
other
told
women
me what
escape
happened.
abuse. I'm using my
The
pain to
abandonment,
create
the
something
abuse.
meaningful. And David?
I
He'll
still
rot in a
remember the
cell,
look on her face
forgotten
when
by
she told
everyone
me what
except his
happened.
victims who sleep better knowing he
The
can't hurt anyone
abandonment,
else.
the abuse.
She returned to her seat. I
still
squeezed her
remember the look
hand,
on her face when
tears
she told
streaming
me what
down my
happened.
face. Next came
The
Jennifer
abandonment,
Walsh,
the
one of David's
abuse.
earlier victims. I
I
lost
still remember the look on her
$300,000 in
face when
5
she
years of
told
my
me what
life to
happened.
David Whitmore's lies.
The
I lost my
abandonment, the
ability to trust
abuse.
people. I still have panic
I still
attacks when
remember
men
the look on
approach
her
me.
face when she told
My
me what
therapist
happened.
says it's PTSD.
The abandonment,
I call
the
it the permanent
abuse.
scar David left on my soul.
I still
Melissa
remember the
Torres
look on her
followed.
face when she told me
David
what
told me
happened.
he loved me. Told me we'd open a
abandonment,
restaurant
the
together,
abuse.
create something beautiful.
I still
Instead,
remember
he
the
took
look
my
on her
money and
face when she
disappeared.
told me what happened.
I filed for bankruptcy,
The abandonment,
lost my
the
apartment,
abuse.
moved back in with my parents at
I
age
still remember
38.
the look on her face
I thought
when
about
she told me what
suicide.
happened.
The only reason I didn't was
The
knowing he'd win if I
abandonment,
did.
the abuse.
One by one, 7 women
I still
stood and
remember the
described
look on
what
her
David had
face when she
taken from
told me
them.
what happened.
Money, money, yes.
The
But more
abandonment,
importantly,
the
trust,
abuse.
hope, years they'd never get
I
back.
still remember
Pieces
the
of
look on her
themselves they
face
were
when
still
she
trying
told
to
me what
recover.
happened.
Then came Thomas
The
and Linda
abandonment,
Brennan,
the
Catherine's
abuse.
parents. Thomas's hands shook as he held a photo of his daughter. Our Catherine was brilliant, kind, full of life. David Whitmore killed her as surely as if he'd pushed her off a cliff. His voice broke. The police called it suicide, but we know the truth. David drove her to despair, stole her hope, and when she tried to escape, he made sure she never could. We'll never hold our grandchildren, never see Catherine grow old, never hear her laugh again, because David Whitmore is a murderer. Linda sobbed openly. I hope you never sleep peacefully. I hope Catherine haunts every moment of your miserable existence. I hope prison is hell on earth for you. And I hope you live a very, very long time to experience every second of it. Marcus Brennan tried to object. Your Honor, my client hasn't been charged with murder, but Judge Walsh silenced him with a look. The victims have a right to be heard, counsel. Sit down. Finally, I stood. My hands trembled as I approached the podium, but my voice was steady. Your Honor, I'm Margaret Chen. For 3 years, I sent money to David Whitmore believing I was helping my daughter. Instead, I funded his lifestyle, his affairs, his schemes. He weaponized my love for Sarah against us both. I looked at David. You called me yesterday from prison. Did you know that? You used another inmate's phone privileges, somehow got my number, and called to tell me this wasn't over, that your family would make sure Sarah and I paid for destroying you. Judge Walsh's head snapped up. He did what? He threatened us. Again, even from prison, he's trying to intimidate and control. That's who David Whitmore is, a man so consumed with power that even facing decades in prison, he still believes he's untouchable. Laura was already pulling out documentation phone records showing the call, a recording the prison had provided. Judge Walsh's expression darkened as she listened to David's voice, cold and menacing, promising retribution. Your Honor, I continued, David Whitmore is dangerous, not just because of what he did, but because he feels no remorse. He views victims as obstacles to overcome, not humans he's harmed. Please impose a sentence that ensures he never has the opportunity to destroy another life. I returned to my seat. Sarah wrapped her arms around me, and we held each other as Judge Walsh reviewed her notes. Does the defendant wish to make a statement? She asked. Marcus Brennan whispered urgently to David, who shook his head stubbornly. Then, against his lawyer's advice, David stood. Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to speak. This was unexpected. Defendants rarely spoke at sentencing too risky. But David's ego wouldn't let him stay silent. I've listened to these women portray me as a monster, but the truth is, I tried to help them. Sarah was mentally ill. I spent a fortune on her care. Her mother was willing to send money because she felt guilty for abandoning Sarah to build her career. I simply accepted what was freely given. His voice grew stronger, more arrogant. Catherine Brennan was unstable long before she met me. Jennifer, Melissa, the others, they made bad investments and want someone to blame. I'm not responsible for their poor decisions. The courtroom was silent, everyone stunned by his audacity. This trial was a witch hunt orchestrated by a vindictive woman and her overbearing mother. The jury was prejudiced by media coverage. The evidence was circumstantial at best. And yet I've been convicted, my life destroyed, because society needs a villain to punish. He turned to Sarah. You ruined me. I gave you everything, a home, a name, a family that welcomed you despite your obvious inadequacies. And you repaid that generosity by lying to police, manipulating your mother, and playing victim for sympathy. I hope you're satisfied. You've destroyed a respected family's legacy. Sarah stood slowly. Your Honor, may I respond? Judge Walsh nodded. Briefly, Sarah walked to stand directly in front of David, close enough that the marshals tensed, ready to intervene if needed. You're right about one thing, David. I am satisfied, because everyone can see exactly who you are now. No more charm, no more manipulation, just a pathetic man who blames everyone but himself for his crimes. Her voice was ice. You didn't give me everything. You took everything. And now justice is taking everything from you. We're even. She walked back to her seat without looking back. David's face contorted with rage, and for a moment I thought he might lunge at her. But the marshals moved closer, and he subsided. Judge Walsh's expression was granite. Mr.
The abandonment,
Whitmore,
the
in 23 years on the
abuse.
bench, I've never heard such a
I still
stunning lack of
remember the look on
remorse.
her face
You've
when
been
she told
convicted
me
of
what
17 felonies. You've
The
destroyed multiple
abandonment,
lives.
the abuse.
You've corrupted the legal system your family was
still remember
supposed to
the look on her
uphold.
face when
And
she
even
told me
now,
what
you
happened.
blame your victims.
The
She opened a
abandonment,
folder.
the
The
abuse.
sentencing guidelines recommend 15 to 20
I still remember
years.
the look on her face when she
The
told me what
prosecution has
happened.
requested the maximum.
The abandonment, the
The defense has
abuse.
requested the minimum with credit for time
I still
served.
remember the look
She
on her
paused,
face when she told
looking
me
at
what
David over
happened.
her glasses.
The abandonment,
I've also been
the
made aware of
abuse.
additional charges pending witness intimidation for your
remember the
phone
look on
call
her
threatening
face
the
when she
Chens
told me what
yesterday.
happened.
That will be
The
prosecuted
abandonment,
separately.
the abuse.
Patricia gasped. Robert closed his
I still
eyes.
remember the look on
David
her
James
face when she
Whitmore,
told me what
I hereby
happened.
sentence you to 25
The
years in federal
abandonment,
prison
the
on the fraud
abuse.
charges to run consecutively.
I still
An
remember
additional
the look on
5
her
years
face
for
when she
elder
told me
abuse,
what happened.
2 years for obstruction of
The
justice.
abandonment, the
Total
abuse.
sentence, 32 years.
I
The
still
courtroom
remember the
erupted.
look on her face
Sarah
when she
grabbed
told
my
me what
hand.
happened.
Patricia wailed.
The abandonment,
David went
the
white.
abuse.
Furthermore, Judge Walsh continued
I
over
still
the
remember
noise.
the look on her
Upon
face when
release,
she told me
you will
what
be on
happened.
supervised probation for life.
abandonment,
You are
the
ordered to pay
abuse.
restitution to all victims in the amount
I
of
still remember the
$4.3
look
million.
on her face when she told
You
me
will
what
be
happened.
required to register as a fraud offender.
abandonment,
And
the
you are permanently
abuse.
barred from practicing law in any
I
jurisdiction.
still remember the look on
She
her
banged
face
her
when she
gavel.
told me what happened.
Mr. Whitmore,
abandonment,
you
the
had every advantage in
abuse.
life. Education,
I still remember
wealth,
the look on her
family
face when she
connections.
told me what
You
happened.
used those advantages to prey on
The
vulnerable
abandonment,
women.
the
You showed them no
abuse.
mercy. Therefore,
I still
this
remember
court
the look
shows
on
you
her
none.
face when she told
32
me what
years. Take him away.
The abandonment,
Marshals
the
moved in.
abuse.
David was shouting now,
still
struggling
remember
against
the
the
look on her
handcuffs.
face when she told
This
me
is
what
illegal.
happened.
We'll appeal.
The
My father
abandonment,
knows
the
judges.
abuse.
You can't do this. But
I
they
still
could.
remember the look on her
And they
face
did.
when she told me
We
what
watched
happened.
David being dragged from the courtroom,
abandonment,
still
the
screaming
abuse.
threats, still believing his name and
I
connections
still
would
remember
save
the
him.
look on her face
They
when she
wouldn't.
told me what happened.
Patricia and Robert were arrested the
The
next week on
abandonment,
conspiracy
the
charges.
abuse.
Edmund was
I
convicted
still
3 months
remember the
later.
look on her face
The
when she
entire
told me
Whitmore
what
empire
happened.
collapsed under the weight of decades of
abandonment,
corruption
the
finally
abuse.
exposed. In the hallway,
I still
reporters
remember the look on
surrounded
her
us.
face when she
Sarah
told me
stood
what
tall,
happened.
speaking clearly into the cameras.
abandonment, the abuse.
Today, justice was served.
I still
Not just
remember
for
the look
me,
on her
but
face
for
when she
every
told
woman
me what
David
happened.
Whitmore victimized.
The
For Catherine Brennan,
abandonment, the
who can't be here to
abuse.
see this. For the countless
still
others
remember
who
the look
suffer
on
in
her
silence
face when
because
she
they
told
don't
me
think
what
anyone will
happened.
believe them. She paused,
abandonment, the
looking directly at the
abuse.
camera. I believe you.
I still remember
Law
the look
enforcement
on her face when
believes
she
you.
told me what happened.
The courts believe you.
The
You are not
abandonment,
alone.
the
You are not
abuse.
crazy. And you deserve
I
justice.
still remember the
The
look on
clip
her
would go
face when she
viral
told me
within
what
hours.
happened.
Sarah's foundation
The
would receive
abandonment,
10,000
the
inquiries in the
abuse.
next week from women seeking
I
help
still remember
escaping
the
abuse.
look on her face when
But
she
in that
told me what
moment,
happened.
standing in the courthouse
The
hallway with my
abandonment,
daughter,
the abuse.
I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
I still remember
Hope,
the look on her face
real,
when she told me
solid
what
hope that
happened.
the world was changing,
The abandonment,
that women's
the
voices
abuse.
mattered, that speaking truth to
I still
power could
remember the look
actually
on her
work.
face when she told
It's
me what
over,
happened.
Sarah whispered.
The
It's
abandonment,
really
the
over.
abuse.
It's not over, I corrected gently.
I still remember
It's
the look
beginning.
on her face
Your
when
real
she told
life.
me what happened.
The one you choose.
The abandonment,
one they can't
the
touch.
abuse.
She smiled a real smile,
I still
bright
remember the
and
look on her
genuine and
face
full
when
of
she told me what
possibility.
happened.
Then, let's begin.
abandonment,
3
the
months after David's
abuse.
sentencing, on a warm June
I still
morning that
remember
felt
the
like
look on
the
her
earth
face when
itself
she
was
told me what
celebrating renewal,
happened.
Sarah and I stood in front of a
abandonment,
modest
the
brick building
abuse.
in downtown Denver.
I
The
still
sign
remember
above
the
the
look
door
on her
read,
face when she
"The
told me what
Catherine Brennan
happened.
Foundation, supporting
abandonment,
survivors
the
of financial
abuse.
abuse." Sarah's hands trembled
I
as she
still
held the
remember the look
ceremonial
on her
scissors,
face when she
ready to
told me
cut
what
the red
happened.
ribbon. Behind us,
The
a
abandonment,
crowd had
the
gathered victims from the
abuse.
trial, supporters,
I still
media,
remember the
and
look on her
Thomas
face
and
when
Linda
she told
Brennan,
me what
who
happened.
donated the initial funding to
The
make this dream
abandonment, the
reality.
abuse.
"I can't believe this is happening,"
I
Sarah
still
whispered
remember
to
the
me.
look on her face
6
when she
months
told
ago,
me what
I was
happened.
freezing on a porch, convinced I'd die
abandonment,
there.
the
Now I'm
abuse.
opening a foundation that will help thousands of
I
women.
still remember the look
"You're
on
not
her
the same
face when she
person who
told me
sat
what
on that
happened.
porch," I said. "You've
The
transformed your
abandonment, the
trauma into
abuse.
purpose. That's the ultimate victory
I
over
still
David."
remember the look on her
She cut
face
the
when she
ribbon,
told me what
and applause
happened.
erupted. We
The
stepped inside
abandonment,
3
the
floors of office
abuse.
space, counseling rooms,
I still
legal
remember the look on
consultation
her
areas,
face when she
and
told me
emergency
what
housing
happened.
assistance.
The
Everything funded
abandonment,
by
the
restitution,
abuse.
money the courts had seized from
I still
David's hidden
remember the look on
accounts.
her face
The
when she told
irony
me
was
what
beautiful.
happened.
David's stolen money was now being
abandonment,
used
the
to free his
abuse.
victims. Marcus Sullivan stood near
still
the
remember
back,
the look on her
watching
face
Sarah
when she
with that
told me
same
what
expression
happened.
he'd worn since his confession
The
adoration
abandonment,
mixed
the
with patience.
abuse.
Over the past 3 months,
I
he'd
still
become a
remember the look
fixture
on
in
her
Sarah's
face when she
life.
told me what happened.
Not as a boyfriend, she wasn't
The
ready for that.
abandonment, the
Might never be, but as a
abuse.
friend who showed up,
I still
who
remember the
listened,
look on her face
who
when
never
she told me
pressured or
what
demanded.
happened.
He's good for
The
you, I
abandonment,
told Sarah
the
last week.
abuse.
I know. That's
I
what
still remember the
terrifies
look
me.
on her face
What
when
if
she
I'm
told me
broken
what
in ways
happened.
I can't fix?
The abandonment,
What if I can't
the
ever trust someone
abuse.
fully again? Then he'll
I
wait.
still remember the
Real
look on her
love
face
waits.
when she told me what
Now,
happened.
watching them exchange a smile across the
abandonment,
crowded
the
room,
abuse.
I wondered if maybe Sarah was healing
I still
faster than she
remember the look on her
realized.
face when she
Not
told me
healed,
what
that would
happened.
take years, maybe a
The
lifetime.
abandonment, the
But healing.
abuse.
Growing toward light like a
I
plant
still
that had
remember
spent
the
too
look on
long
her
in
face when
darkness.
she told me what
The foundation's first client walked
The
through the door at 10
abandonment, the
a.m.
abuse.
Her name was Amanda, 32,
I
mother
still
of
remember
2,
the look on her
trapped
face
in a
when she
marriage
told
to a
me what
wealthy tech
happened.
executive who controlled
The
every penny she
abandonment,
spent.
the abuse.
She'd seen Sarah's press conference
I
and
still
finally
remember
found the
the look on
courage to
her
leave.
face when she told
I
me
have
what
nothing,
happened.
Amanda said, tears streaming down her
abandonment,
face.
the abuse.
No money, no job, no place to
still
go.
remember the look
My
on her
husband says
face
I'll
when
lose
she
my
told
kids
me
if I
what
divorce
happened.
him. Says no
The
judge will give
abandonment,
custody
the
to an unemployed
abuse.
woman with no resources.
I still remember
Sarah
the
took
look on her
Amanda's
face when
hands.
she told me what happened.
That's what my husband said too.
The abandonment,
He was
the
wrong,
abuse.
and yours is wrong. We're going to
I
connect you
still
with
remember
lawyers
the
who
look on her
specialize in
face when she
cases
told
like
me what
yours.
happened.
We're going to help you file for
The
emergency
abandonment,
custody
the
and restraining
abuse.
orders. We're going to
I
provide
still remember
temporary
the look on
housing
her
and
face
job
when she
placement
told me what
assistance.
happened.
You're not alone anymore.
The abandonment,
Amanda
the
sobbed with relief.
abuse.
Over the next hour, Sarah
still
and our
remember
team
the
of
look on her
volunteers,
face when
survivors
she told me what
themselves,
happened.
now helping others, created
The
a comprehensive
abandonment,
escape
the
plan.
abuse.
Amanda would leave tomorrow with her children,
still remember
go
the
to a
look on her
safe
face
house,
when she
file
told me
legal
what
papers
happened.
the same day. By
The
noon, 6
abandonment,
more
the
women had walked through our
abuse.
doors. By the end of the week,
I still
43.
remember the look
By
on
the
her
end of the
face
month,
when she told me
over
what
200.
happened.
The foundation
The
became a
abandonment, the
phenomenon.
abuse.
Media coverage brought donations, small amounts
still
from
remember
regular
the look on her
people,
face when
large
she
grants
told me
from
what
organizations fighting domestic
The
violence.
abandonment,
We
the
hired staff,
abuse.
opened satellite offices in
I
3
still
other
remember the
cities,
look on her face
created a
when she told me what
24-hour
happened.
hotline. And every single
The
day,
abandonment,
Sarah
the
showed up,
abuse.
listened to stories that mirrored
I
her
still
own,
remember the look
held
on her
women
face
while they
when she
cried,
told me what happened.
celebrated with them when they got their
The
first
abandonment,
paychecks
the
from new
abuse.
jobs, their first nights in apartments of their
I still
own,
remember
their
the look
final
on her
divorce
face when she
decrees.
told me what
This is
happened.
what David's legacy will be,
The abandonment,
Sarah told
the
me one
abuse.
evening as we reviewed applications for emergency
I still
assistance.
remember the look on
Not
her
his
face when
crimes,
she told
not
me
his
what
name.
happened.
This foundation.
The abandonment,
These women
the
he tried to
abuse.
silence by silencing me. Every
I
woman
still
we
remember
help
the
is
look
proof
on
that
her
he
face
failed.
when she told me
But
what
life
happened.
wasn't all triumph and healing.
The abandonment,
Some days were
the
harder than
abuse.
others. In July, David
still
filed an
remember the
appeal,
look on her
claiming
face when she
ineffective
told me
counsel
what
and
happened.
prejudicial media coverage had denied
The
him a fair
abandonment,
trial.
the abuse.
The motion was denied, but seeing his name in
I
legal
still remember
documents
the look on
again
her face when
triggered
she told
Sarah's
me what
PTSD. She had nightmares
The
for a week,
abandonment, the
woke up
abuse.
screaming, convinced he was standing over her
I
bed.
still remember the
Marcus
look on
showed
her
up
face
every
when she
morning that
told me
week with
what
coffee
happened.
and just sat with her.
The
Didn't try to
abandonment,
fix
the
anything,
abuse.
just existed in the same space,
I still
solid and
remember the
steady.
look on her face
You
when
don't
she
have to
told
do
me what
this,
happened.
Sarah told him on the 3rd morning.
The abandonment,
I'm
the
damaged goods.
abuse.
I come with more baggage than an
I still
airport
remember
terminal.
the look on her face
Everyone
when
has
she told me
baggage,
what
Marcus said
happened.
simply. Yours
The
just happens to have been
abandonment, the
unpacked in federal
abuse.
court. Doesn't make you
I
less
still
worthy of
remember the
friendship
look on her face
or
when she
love
told
if
me
you
what
ever want to
happened.
go there. I don't know if
The
I can go there.
abandonment, the
I don't know if I'll
abuse.
ever be ready for romance or
I still
relationships or
remember the
any of
look on her
that.
face when
Then
she
we
told
stay
me what
friends.
happened.
I'm not going anywhere,
The
Sarah.
abandonment, the
I waited 10
abuse.
years already. I can wait
I still
longer if
remember
that's
the
what you
look on
need.
her face when she
In
told me
August,
what happened.
Patricia Whitmore died in prison,
The abandonment,
heart attack,
the
the official
abuse.
report said. But inmates who'd
I
been there
still remember
whispered
the
she'd
look on her
stopped eating,
face when she told me
stopped
what
fighting,
happened.
just faded away
The
under the weight of her
abandonment, the
family's destroyed
abuse.
reputation. I felt no
I still
sympathy.
remember the look on
Neither
her
did
face when
Sarah.
she told me what
She
happened.
enabled everything David did,
The abandonment,
Sarah said
the
when we got the news.
abuse.
She taught him that cruelty
I
was
still remember
acceptable,
the look on her face
that
when she
vulnerable
told me
people
what
were
happened.
prey. She doesn't
The
get to escape
abandonment, the
consequences through
abuse.
death. Robert and Edmund remained
I
in
still
prison,
remember the
both
look on her
serving
face when
15-year
she told me what
sentences.
happened.
The legal community had turned
The
on them
abandonment,
completely.
the abuse.
3 judges had been removed from the bench after
I still
investigations
remember the look
revealed
on
they'd
her
taken
face when she
bribes
told
from
me what
Robert.
happened.
Dozens of cases
The
were being
abandonment,
reviewed for
the
potential
abuse.
corruption. The ripple effects of the
I still
Whitmore
remember
family's
the look on her
exposure were
face when she
staggering.
told me what
The
happened.
knowledge we'd gained from their downfall, the
abandonment,
patterns of
the
financial
abuse.
abuse, the manipulation
I
tactics,
still remember
the
the
ways
look on
wealthy
her face
families
when she
weaponized
told me
legal
what happened.
systems, became educational tools for
abandonment,
law
the
enforcement
abuse.
nationwide. In September,
I still
I was
remember the
invited to
look on
speak
her
at the
face when she
FBI
told me what
Academy
happened.
about identifying and
The
investigating
abandonment,
financial
the
elder
abuse.
abuse. Sarah came with me,
I still
and together
remember the
we
look on
presented
her
a
face when
comprehensive
she told me
analysis
what
of how the
happened.
Whitmores had operated for
The
decades.
abandonment,
The biggest lesson here,
abuse.
I told the room full of agents and
I still remember
prosecutors,
the look on her
is that
face
abuse
when she
doesn't
told me
always
what
look like
happened.
violence. Sometimes
The
it looks like
abandonment,
concern,
the
like help,
abuse.
like family taking care of family.
I still remember the
The
look on her
Whitmores
face
were
when she
masters
told
at
me
that
what
disguise.
happened.
But
The
underneath,
abandonment,
it was always about
the
power and
abuse.
control, Sarah added.
I still
And
remember
the second
look on
lesson
her
is that
face when she
victims know
told me what
something is
happened.
wrong even when they can't
The
articulate it.
abandonment, the
When I installed that
abuse.
Ring doorbell, I didn't know I was
still
collecting
remember the
evidence
look on
for a
her
federal
face when she
trial.
told me what
I just
happened.
knew I needed
The
documentation.
abandonment,
I needed
the
proof I wasn't
abuse.
crazy. Law enforcement
I
needs
still
to
remember
trust
the look on
victims'
her face
instincts,
when she told
even
me
when
what
the victims
happened.
themselves doubt them.
The
The
abandonment,
presentation
the
became required
abuse.
viewing for new FBI agents.
I still
The
remember
knowledge
look
we'd
on her
shared
face
hard
when she
won
told
through
me what
Sarah's
happened.
suffering would help prevent future
The
crimes.
abandonment, the
That's what made it
abuse.
bearable, I thought. The
I
knowledge
still
that
remember
Sarah's
the
pain
look on
had
her
created
face when she told
educational
me what
opportunities
happened.
that would protect others.
The abandonment,
On October
the
19th,
abuse.
1 year exactly from the night
I
I'd
still
found
remember
Sarah
the
on
look
that
on her
porch,
face when she
the
told me what
foundation held a
happened.
gala fundraiser.
The
500 people
abandonment, the
attended,
abuse.
raising over $2 million in a single
I still
evening.
remember the look on her
Sarah
face
stood at the
when she told
podium in
me
a
what
stunning
happened.
emerald dress, her confidence
abandonment,
radiant.
the
She'd gained back
abuse.
the weight she'd lost. Her
I
hair
still
had grown
remember
out
the look on her
slightly,
face when she
styled in
told me
soft
what
waves.
happened.
But most
The
importantly, her
abandonment,
eyes
the
were alive again.
abuse.
A year ago tonight, I thought I was
still
going to
remember the
die.
look on her
I was
face
freezing
when
on
she
a
told me
porch
what
while my
happened.
husband's family celebrated Christmas inside,
abandonment, the
laughing about my
abuse.
worthlessness. I'd lost 4
I
babies.
still remember the look
I'd
on
lost
her
my
face when she
career.
told me
I'd
what
lost
happened.
myself. Sarah's voice
The
was strong,
abandonment, the
clear.
abuse.
But I hadn't lost everything.
I still
still
remember
had
the
my
look on her
mother,
face
who
when she
flew
told me
across the
what
country
happened.
to rescue me. I
The
still had my
abandonment,
instinct to
the
document the
abuse.
abuse. And I still had
I still
something
remember
David
the look on
Whitmore
her
could never
face when
take
she
my
told
will
me
to
what
survive.
happened.
She paused,
The abandonment,
letting that sink
the
in.
abuse.
This foundation exists because of
I
every
still
woman who
remember the
came
look on
before
her
me.
face when she told me
Catherine
what
Brennan,
happened.
who died before she could
The
escape.
abandonment, the
Jennifer Walsh,
abuse.
who lost everything but kept
I
fighting.
still remember the look
Every
on her face
survivor
when she
who
told me
shared their
what
story,
happened.
who testified,
The
who refused to
abandonment,
stay
the
silent.
abuse.
We're not victims anymore.
I still
We're
remember the
voices,
look on her face
and we're
when
getting
she told me
louder
what
every day.
happened.
The applause was
The
thunderous.
abandonment, the
Marcus,
abuse.
sitting at a table near the front, had
I
tears
still
streaming
remember the
down his
look on her
face.
face when she
After
told
the
me what
gala,
happened.
we walked through downtown Denver,
abandonment,
Sarah and I
the
arm in arm,
abuse.
Marcus a few steps behind, giving
I
us
still
space.
remember the look on her
Are you
face
happy?
when she told me
I
what
asked my
happened.
daughter. Truly
The
happy?
abandonment,
She
the
considered the
abuse.
question seriously. I'm not
I
sure I
still
remember
remember
what
the look
happy
on her
feels
face
like
when she
without
told
fear
me what
attached to it. But I'm content.
abandonment,
I'm
the
purposeful.
abuse.
I'm free. Maybe that's better
I
than
still
happy.
remember the look on her
Maybe it
face
is.
when she told me what
And Mom?
happened.
Sarah
The
stopped,
abandonment,
turned to
the
face me.
abuse.
Thank you.
I
For
still
believing
remember
me
the
when
look on
nobody
her
else
face
did.
when she told me what happened.
For spending $300,000 trying to
abandonment,
help
the
me,
abuse.
even though David stole it. For getting
I
on
still
that plane
remember
on
the look
Christmas
on her
Eve.
face when she
For
told me
fighting
what
when I was too
happened.
broken to fight for myself.
The abandonment,
You saved
the
my life.
abuse.
I pulled her close, breathing
I
in the
still
scent of
remember
her
the look on her
shampoo,
face when she
feeling her
told me what
heartbeat
happened.
against mine. You
The
saved yourself,
abandonment,
baby.
the abuse.
I just showed up for the final battle.
I still remember
You'd been
the
fighting
look on
alone
her
for
face when she
years.
told me what happened.
Marcus cleared his throat.
The abandonment,
Sorry to
the
interrupt, but
abuse.
Sarah, there's something I need to tell you.
I still
We
remember
both
the look on
turned.
her face
He
when she
looked
told me what
nervous,
happened.
his hands in his pockets,
The abandonment,
shoulders
the
tense.
abuse.
I'm being transferred. Los
I still
Angeles Field
remember the
Office.
look on her face
It's
when
a
she told me
promotion
what
lead
happened.
detective on a task force investigating
abandonment,
organized
the
crime.
abuse.
He swallowed hard. I leave in
I
3
still remember
weeks.
the look on her
Sarah's
face when
face
she
went
told me
pale.
what happened.
Oh, I know the timing is
abandonment,
terrible.
The abuse.
The foundation is taking off.
I
You're
still
building
remember
this
the
life,
look on
and
her face when she told
He
me what
trailed
happened.
off. I don't want to
The
leave.
abandonment,
But it's
the
my career.
abuse.
It's everything I've worked
I
toward.
still remember the
Then
look
you
on
should
her
go,
face when she
Sarah
told me
said,
what
her
happened.
voice steady despite the tears
The
welling in her
abandonment,
eyes.
the
You can't put
abuse.
your life on hold waiting for me
I
to be
still
ready
remember
for
the look
something
on
I
her
might never
face
be
when she
ready
told me
for.
what happened.
Sarah. No,
The
Marcus.
abandonment,
You've
the
been incredible.
abuse.
Patient and kind and everything I
still
didn't know
remember
I
the look
needed.
on her face
But you
when she
deserve
told me
someone
what
who can
happened.
love you back without fear.
The
Someone who's
abandonment,
not
the
broken.
abuse.
You're not broken, he said
I
fiercly.
still remember the look
You're
on her
healing.
face when
There's
she
a
told me what
difference.
happened.
Maybe. But healing takes
abandonment,
time,
the
and you need to live your
abuse.
life. She stepped
I
forward,
still remember
kissed
the
his
look
cheek.
on her face when
Thank
she
you
told me what happened.
for seeing me, for
The
waiting as long as you
abandonment,
did,
the abuse.
for being proof that good men
I
exist.
still remember
She
the look
walked
on
away
her face
quickly,
when she told me
before
what
the
happened.
tears could fall.
The
I started to
abandonment,
follow,
the abuse.
but Marcus grabbed my arm. Tell her I
still
love
remember
her.
the look on her
Tell her
face
I'll
when she
wait.
told me what
LA
happened.
isn't that far, 90-minute flight.
abandonment,
Tell her
the
if she ever wants to
abuse.
try, to take a chance on something
I
real,
still remember
I'll
the
be
look
there.
on her face when she
His
told
voice
me what
broke.
happened.
Please,
The
tell her.
abandonment, the
I nodded.
abuse.
I will. But Marcus?
I still
She
remember
needs
the
to
look
figure
on
out
her
who
face
she
when
is
she
without
told me what
defining
happened.
herself by men,
The
not David,
abandonment, the
not even you.
abuse.
When she's ready, if
I
she's
still
ready,
remember the look
she'll
on her
reach
face
out.
when she told
But
me
she
what
has to come
happened.
to it on her own.
The
He
abandonment,
understood.
the abuse.
I could see it in his eyes, the knowledge
I
that
still
sometimes
remember the
love
look on
means
her
letting
face
go.
when she told me
I
what
found
happened.
Sarah in our hotel room,
The
curled up on the
abandonment,
bed,
the
sobbing
abuse.
into a pillow. I
I
care
still
about
remember the
him,
look
she
on her
choked
face
out.
when she told
Maybe
me what
even love
happened.
him. But I'm
The
terrified.
abandonment,
What
the
if I choose
abuse.
wrong again? What if my judgment
I
is
still remember
permanently
the look on her
broken?
face when
What
she
if I
told
let
me
him
what
in and he
happened.
destroys me like David
The
did?
abandonment,
Then
the
you'll survive that
abuse.
too, I said, lying down beside
I
her.
still remember
Because
the
that's
look on
what you
her
do, you
face when she
survive.
told me what
But
happened.
Sarah, not all men are
The
David.
abandonment,
Marcus
the
has spent a year
abuse.
proving that. At some point,
I still
you
remember
have to
the look on
decide
her
if you
face
want to
when
live
she
in
told me
fear
what
of what might
happened.
happen, or take a chance on what could be
abandonment, the
beautiful.
abuse.
I don't know how. Nobody
I
does.
still remember the look on her face
Love is
when
always
she
a
told me what
risk,
happened.
always a leap of faith.
The
The question is
abandonment,
whether the
the
potential
abuse.
reward is worth the potential pain.
I still remember
We lay
the
there
look
in
on her
silence
face
for a
when she
long
told me what
time.
happened.
Finally, Sarah
The
said,
abandonment,
"What if I
the
asked him to stay?
abuse.
Would that be
I
selfish?"
still remember the look on her
Maybe.
face when she told
But
me what
relationships are
happened.
built on compromise.
The abandonment,
If he loves
the
you,
abuse.
truly loves you,
I
he'd at
still
least
remember the
consider
look
it.
on her face
Sarah
when she
sat
told me
up,
what happened.
grabbed her phone. Her
The
fingers hovered
abandonment,
over
the
Marcus's
abuse.
contact. Then she put the phone down.
I still remember the
No,
look on her
he needs
face
to
when
go to
she told
LA,
me what
build
happened.
his career. And I
The
need to keep building the
abandonment, the
foundation.
abuse.
Keep healing. Keep
I
becoming
still remember
whoever
the
I'm
look
meant
on
to
her
be.
face when she told me
If we're
what
supposed to
happened.
be together, we'll find
The
our way back to
abandonment,
each
the
other.
abuse.
If not, she took a shaky
I
breath.
still remember the look
If
on her
not,
face
I'll
when she
survive
told me
that
what
too.
happened.
And in that moment,
The
I
abandonment,
knew she would.
the abuse.
My daughter, who'd once been so broken
I
I
still
thought she
remember
might
the
never
look on
piece
her
herself
face when
back
she told
together,
me what
was
happened.
choosing her own path,
The
putting her
abandonment,
healing
the
first,
abuse.
making decisions based on what she
I
needed,
still remember the
not
look
what
on her
others
face
wanted
when
from
she
her.
told me what happened.
That was true freedom.
The
As the months
abandonment,
passed,
the abuse.
Sarah and I settled into a new normal.
I still
I'd
remember the look
relocated
on her
permanently
face
to
when she
Denver,
told me what
taking a
happened.
consulting role at my firm
The
that let me
abandonment,
work
the
remotely.
abuse.
My apartment was 10 minutes from Sarah's
still
new
remember the
place,
look on her
a
face
cozy
when she told me
two-bedroom
what
she'd rented
happened.
using money from the restitution fund.
abandonment, the
The foundation
abuse.
thrived. We helped over
I still
1,500
remember
women
the
in the
look on
first
her
year,
face when she told
secured
me what
$4
happened.
million in grants,
The abandonment,
opened offices
the
in 8
abuse.
cities. Sarah was featured in Time
I still
Magazine's
remember the look
100
on her
Most
face when she
Influential
told
People
me what
issue.
happened.
And through it all, she
The
kept healing,
abandonment, the
kept
abuse.
growing, kept transforming
I
her
still
trauma
remember
into
the look on her
purpose.
face when she
Marcus
told me
sent
what
postcards
happened.
from LA, never
The
pressuring,
abandonment, the
just letting her know he
abuse.
was there, thinking of her,
I still
waiting
remember
if she
the look
wanted
on
him
her
to wait.
face when she told
On
me what
Christmas
happened.
Eve, 2 years after that frozen night that
abandonment,
changed
the
everything,
abuse.
Sarah and I volunteered at the
I
Foundation's
still
Crisis
remember the
Center.
look on her face
We
when
served
she
dinner
told
to
me what
women fleeing
happened.
abuse, played with their
The
children,
abandonment,
handed
the
out gifts donated by
abuse.
supporters. As
I
midnight
still remember
approached,
the look on her
Sarah
face
stepped
when she
outside
told
for
me what
air.
happened.
I found her standing in the
The
exact spot
abandonment,
where
the
I'd first seen her on that porch, looking at the
I
stars.
still remember the look
What are
on
you
her
thinking
face
about?
when
I
she told
asked.
me what happened.
That 2 years ago, I thought
The
my life was over,
abandonment, the
that I'd die on a
abuse.
porch because nobody cared enough to
I
save
still
me.
remember the look on her face
But I was
when she told
wrong.
me what happened.
She turned to me,
The
her face
abandonment,
radiant in the
the
streetlight.
abuse.
Someone did care.
I still
You
remember the
cared.
look on her face
And
when
that
she
care,
told
that
me what
fierce,
happened.
protective, unconditional
The
mother's love, it
abandonment,
saved
the
not just me,
abuse.
but all those women we helped today.
I still remember
Every
the
woman
look on
will
her
help
face
tomorrow.
when she told me what
She pulled out
happened.
her phone, typed something,
abandonment,
and hit
the
send before she
abuse.
could second guess it. What was
still
that?
remember the look
I
on her
asked.
face when she
I
told
told
me what
Marcus to come
happened.
home, to Denver,
The abandonment,
that if he still
the
wants to try, I'm
abuse.
ready to try.
I still remember
Not because
the look
I'm
on her
healed, I
face
might
when
never
she
be
told me
fully
what
healed,
happened.
but because I want
The
to,
abandonment,
because
the
I deserve
abuse.
to. Because the knowledge I've gained
I
over
still
these 2
remember the look
years
on
is
her
that I'm
face
worth
when she
loving,
told me what
even with
happened.
my scars. Her
The
phone buzzed
abandonment, the
immediately.
abuse.
Marcus's response. Booking
I
a
still
flight
remember
now.
the look on
I
her
never
face
left.
when she told
Not
me what
really.
happened.
My heart stayed with you.
The abandonment,
Sarah
the
laughed through her
abuse.
tears. Is this crazy?
I still
Am I
remember
making
the
another
look on her
mistake?
face when she told me
Maybe,
what
I
happened.
said honestly. But it's That's your mistake to make.
The abuse.
And Sarah, you're
I
not the
still
same
remember
woman
the
who
look on
married
her
David.
face when she told me
You have
what
knowledge
happened.
now, education about what
abandonment,
healthy
the
relationships look
abuse.
like, wisdom gained
I
from
still
surviving
remember the
hell.
look on her face when
Trust
she
your
told me what
judgment.
happened.
My judgment says Marcus is
abandonment,
different,
the
that he's
abuse.
safe. that he's worth the
I
risk.
still remember the
Then
look on
that's
her
your
face
answer.
when she told me
As
what
we drove
happened.
home that night, Sarah said,
The
I want
abandonment,
to add
the
something to the
abuse.
Foundation's mission. Educational
I still remember
programs,
the look on her face
teaching
when
women
she
and
told me
girls how
what
to
happened.
recognize manipulation tactics,
abandonment,
how to
the
spot financial
abuse.
abuse before it starts,
I
prevention,
still remember the
not
look
just
on her face
intervention.
when she told me what
That's
happened.
brilliant. The knowledge you have,
The
the lessons you learned the
abandonment,
hard
the
way could
abuse.
prevent so many women from going through what
I
you
still
did.
remember the look on
That's
her
true
face when she
education,
told me
Sarah.
what happened.
Using lived experience to teach
abandonment,
others.
the abuse.
And that became our focus.
I still
Educational
remember the look on her
workshops in
face when she
schools,
told me what happened.
training programs for social
The
workers and law
abandonment,
enforcement,
the abuse.
a comprehensive curriculum on healthy
I still remember
relationships,
the look on her
financial
face when she
literacy,
told me what
and
happened.
recognizing abuse.
The
The knowledge we
abandonment,
shared,
the
Sarah's painful
abuse.
lessons transformed into educational
I still
tools
remember
reached
the look on
millions.
her face when
School
she told
districts
me what
nationwide
happened.
adopted our programs.
The
The
abandonment,
FBI
the
incorporated our
abuse.
training into their academy curriculum.
I still
David
remember
had
the
tried
look
to
on her
silence
face when she
Sarah.
told me what
Instead, she became the loudest voice in a
abandonment,
movement
the
that would change
abuse.
laws, shift cultural
I
attitudes,
still remember
and
the
save
look on her
countless
face when
lives.
she told me what
That's the
happened.
lesson, I thought.
The abandonment,
That's the knowledge worth passing on.
abuse.
Abuse thrives in
I still
silence.
remember the look on her face
But when
she told
survivors
me what
speak,
happened.
when they transform their pain into
abandonment,
education,
the abuse.
when they refuse to let their trauma be
I
meaningless,
still remember the look
that's
on her
when
face
systems
she told me
change.
what happened.
The Whitmores had spent decades believing their
abandonment,
wealth and
the
power made them
abuse.
untouchable. They'd calculated
remember
every
the
move,
look on her
manipulated
face when
every
she told me
system,
what
silenced
happened.
every victim.
The
But they'd
abandonment,
miscalculated
the
one thing:
abuse.
the strength of a woman who
I still
refuses to
remember
stay
the look on her
silent,
face when
the
she told me
power
what
of a mother's
happened.
love, and the unstoppable
abandonment,
force of
the
truth
abuse.
spoken loudly enough that the whole world
I
has
still
to
remember the
listen.
look on her face
Sarah's
when she
voice
told me
over
what
closing
happened.
footage. If you're watching this
abandonment,
and
the
you recognize
abuse.
yourself in my story, if you're
I
being
still remember the
controlled,
look on her face
isolated,
when she told
told
me
you're
what
worthless, please know
The
this:
abandonment,
you are not
the
alone.
abuse.
You are not crazy.
I still
And you
remember the
deserve
look on her
better.
face when she
The
told
knowledge
me
I've
what
gained through
happened.
surviving David Whitmore
The
is that
abandonment,
healing
the
is possible.
abuse.
Freedom is possible.
I still
A
remember
life
the
where you
look on her
define your
face
own
when she
worth is
told me what
possible.
happened.
But it starts with one
The
brave
abandonment,
choice:
the
choosing
abuse.
yourself. Call the National
I still
Domestic
remember the
Violence
look on her
Hotline.
face when she told
Reach
me
out
what
to the
happened.
Catherine Brennan Foundation.
The abandonment,
Document
the
everything.
abuse.
Trust your instincts.
I
And
still
remember,
remember the look on
survivors
her
don't
face
just
when she
endure,
told me what
we
happened.
transform. We educate.
The abandonment, the
We create
abuse.
change. The biggest lesson, the most
still
important
remember the
knowledge I
look on
can
her
share is
face when
this:
she told me
your
what
voice
happened.
matters, your story matters,
abandonment,
and speaking
the
your truth, no
abuse.
matter how terrifying, is the most powerful
still
thing you
remember
can
the look
do.
on her face when she
Education
told me what
starts with
happened.
awareness. Awareness
The
starts with
abandonment,
stories
the
like mine,
abuse.
and change starts with you choosing to
still
believe
remember
that you're
the
worth
look on her
fighting
face
for,
when she told me what
because you are.
happened.
We all are.
The abandonment,
Margaret's
the
closing.
abuse.
This story is based on real experiences,
remember the look
though
on her
names and
face-
places have been
I
changed
still
to
remember
protect
the
those
look on her
involved.
face when she
If
told
it
me what
resonated with
happened.
you, if it made you think
The
about your own
abandonment, the
relationships or someone you
abuse.
love, please share it.
I still
Leave a
remember the
comment
look on
telling
her
us how
face
this
when she
story
told me
affected
what
you.
happened.
Your insights,
The
your own
abandonment, the
experiences,
abuse.
your reflections, they matter. They create
still remember
community.
the look on her
They
face
build the
when she
knowledge
told
we
me what
need to
happened.
prevent future abuse.
The abandonment,
Subscribe to
the
Voices of Auntie
abuse.
Rose for more stories that
I
educate,
still remember the
inspire,
look on
and
her
empower.
face when she told me what happened.
Hit that like button if this story touched
the
your heart.
abandonment, the abuse.
Share it with someone who needs to hear it.
I still
Because
remember
every
the look
share
on her
spreads
face when
awareness.
she told me what
Every
happened.
comment creates conversation.
The abandonment,
Every
the
subscription
abuse.
supports our mission of education through
I
storytelling.
still remember the look on
The
her
knowledge
face
we
when she
share here,
told me
these
what
lessons
happened.
learned through pain, they're gifts
The
we give each other.
abandonment, the
Education
abuse.
that could save lives.
I still
Wisdom that
remember
could
the look on
prevent
her face
suffering.
when she told me
Tell
what
me in the
happened.
comments. How
The
did this story
abandonment,
resonate
the
with you?
abuse.
Have you seen similar patterns in your
I
life
still remember
or in the
look on
lives
her
of people
face
you
when
love?
She told me what happened.
What lessons did you take
The
away?
abandonment,
Your
the
voice
abuse.
adds to this conversation. Your
I
knowledge
still remember the
enriches
look
our
on her
collective
face when she told me
understanding.
what happened.
Thank you for watching.
The
Thank you for listening.
abandonment, the
Thank you for being
abuse.
part of this community where education
I still
happens through
remember the
shared
look on her
stories and
face when
honest
she told me what
conversation.
happened.
I wish you all good health,
abandonment,
peaceful
the
days,
abuse.
and lives filled with genuine love and
I
respect.
still remember the look
May
on
you
her
always
face
have the
when she
knowledge
told
to
me what
recognize your
happened.
worth and the courage
The
to demand it.
abandonment, the
Until next
abuse.
time, this is Auntie Rose,
I still
reminding
remember the
you
look
that
on
your
her
story
face when she
matters,
told me what
your
happened.
education continues,
The
and your voice has
abandonment, the
power.
abuse.
Take care. Stay safe.
I still remember
And remember,
the look on her
knowledge is
face when
freedom.
she told me what
Education is protection.
The
And speaking
abandonment,
truth
the
is the bravest thing
abuse.
you'll ever do. See you in the next
still
video.
remember the look
Don't
on her
forget to
face when she
subscribe,
told me what
like,
happened.
and share. Your
The
support helps us
abandonment,
reach
the
more people who need
abuse.
these lessons, this knowledge. knowledge,
I still
this
remember the look
education.
on her face when
Goodbye
she
for
told
now,
me what
friends.
happened.
May God bless you
The
abundantly.
abandonment.